couple of days, I must say.
Good evening, good night for Pat and me, and good afternoon for Ozzy. Mancunian way at a strange time of day, but we thought that lots of people might be wanting to laugh at a certain team from Salford when we were going to go live with this post-match, so we thought we'd better come today so we actually get to talk about it without people being distracted by general humour. So, Ozzy, Pat, how did you enjoy? Was it more tears or was it more content at the performance after what was an emotional and interesting day for all Blues?
Ozzy, you go first, mate.
Yeah, I mean, the match, I think we'll come on to, but I will admit, even I got a bit teared up in all honesty. With everything that thinking, knowing it was Kev's last match at the Etihad, knowing that, this is the last time we're going to be seeing him there. This is the last time we're going to be seeing him in a City shirt at the Etihad, and just watching him. He's such a humble guy. He's, I mean, the joke was made that he was finally allowed to speak because he's done most of his talking on the pitch for the last decade. The video of past players, absolutely praising him for what he's done on the pitch. I mean, I've been looking back over the assists and the goals, and he's always said, an assist means more to me than a goal. But I mean, crikey, some of the goals that he's actually scored have just been breathtaking, and I know I put it in the chat last night, saying that I think, in all honesty, I think he's probably the best player that I've seen live in a City shirt. And I know that's subjective, because I know Rich, you turned around and said you felt it was Aguero or Silva, and yeah, they are two cracking players, and there's no getting away from that. But I just think he for a midfielder to do the amount of assists that he's done, even the goals that he's done, just to run that midfield, to run that team at times, I just think he's been sublime. He has been magnificent. And I just think, when he first came in, the headlines of Sky News going, what on earth are City doing paying, 50 odd million for a Chelsea reject, and boy, how that came back to bite them all in the arse afterwards. Just there aren't enough words to really kind of describe for me what he's done, and I'm sure I'm not alone out there. So yeah, Pat.
No, I mean I quite agree, and I must admit, Ozzy, my thought was that, you know, I was thinking, who's been the most critical player for City of those midfielders? I thought it'd make a great show sometime later, because to me, you've got in the second Pep era, I think Rodri's slightly outside this, because I think Rodri might end up surpassing everyone, but he's been here less time. But you've had Bernardo, De Bruyne, and Gundogan here, 9 seasons, I think, for 2 of them, and 10 seasons for one. And for me, they all played a different role at City. I think they were all absolutely vital in different ways. And I was just thinking to myself, Gundo's had those runs where he has just been sublime. In those last 14 games in 19, his run of goals, was it in 2021 or was it 22? His key goals in big games in 23. And then you've had Bernardo, who for me has always been the glue in the Pep side, the one who's filled in all the gaps and allowed, Gundo, De Bruyne, and some of the others to play. And then you've got Kev, who I think Kev gets the lion's share from the press of being the greatest player we've had. But I actually think there's 3 incredibly great midfielders there who have all played their parts in different ways and all had due to that. And I must admit, the emotion for De Bruyne, I was also thinking, could this be Gundo's last game? And I know we already had Gundo's last game, a season and a half ago or 2 seasons ago. Could it be Bernardo's last game? And who else was going tonight? Because I think, it's probably Ederson's last game at the Etihad and others as well. So, I hope we haven't, in the immense celebrations of De Bruyne deserved, I hope we haven't allowed other club legends to play their last game at the Etihad with absolutely no attention, which was slightly worrying me last night. But and I think with Aguero and Silva, it wasn't, I think they're better than De Bruyne, because maybe David Silva. I don't think Aguero is probably better than De Bruyne. I think it was just that they were players, maybe, who a bigger part in my heart maybe than De Bruyne just. But not necessarily that Aguero is better than De Bruyne, because I think, they're different players, different positions. I don't think they're all utter complete club legends. But but I guess we all see things differently and different times and different eras. But De Bruyne's definitely the one who the media, the fellow pros have latched onto more than Silva or Bernardo, even Gundo. But they've all been huge parts. Patrick, I think you were in tears. You were bawling your eyes out earlier today.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, although it's been for other reasons over the last few days, I must say. But I'll discuss that with everybody a bit later on in the show anyway. But look, I'm actually going to start off by making a little bit of a confession in regards to Kevin De Bruyne, and it goes all the way back to 2015 when City were playing in Melbourne in the pre-season tour. We had a few of the lads out from Blue Moon Rising TV, and they'd approached myself and a few of the Sydney Blues lads outside the Imperial for a bit of a chat. And I think this was around the time it was just announced that Raheem Sterling was on a plane on the way out to Melbourne. Actually, no, he just played his first game against Roma. And of course, by then, I think a lot of the news was already starting to really heat up about, Kevin De Bruyne coming to the club. And, one of the guys actually asked me a question, and he said, if you had a choice to run your midfield at the moment, would it be either Kevin De Bruyne or Paul Pogba? And at the time, I made a decision that I thought it would be Paul Pogba, partly because I was more about the entertainment factor than it was about just winning games. To be honest, so that's one of the biggest regrets I've ever. One of the worst things, or one of the worst takes I've ever made.
So can we call you Phil Thompson? Can we call you Phil Thompson now? Can we call you Phil Thompson or
call
Paul
me Phil
Merson
McCracken if you want to call me that? But anyway,
yeah.
So that was one of the biggest, one of the worst takes that I've made in many years. But I can tell you, I think within I think about 2 months of him coming to the club, you know, we saw the glimpses, or not glimpses, but we saw what he could do. You know, you talk about the way he ran midfield in that game when Aguero scored 5 goals against Newcastle and late winners against Sevilla in the group stages when we were really struggling to get out of there. And, you know, in his first season, it wasn't exactly, you know, filled with a lot of success in that. But, you know, he still was basically the main player in getting us all the way to a semi-final, which, you know, not many of us would have imagined, at that period in which where the club was going. But I mean, when Pep came in, obviously it just changed everything. We didn't just see what we were led to believe by what success he had short term in Germany, but you saw the reason why Pep basically came out and said, like during his time at Bayern, he said that this guy absolutely terrified the crap out of me. And I think it's pretty easy to put 2 and 2 together and realize that, yes, okay, De Bruyne was a Pellegrini signing, but I think deep down we all knew long term that was going to be the overall plan, that he was going to play under Pep for a very, very long time. And then to see that first season, or not necessarily, or first season we saw small glimpses under Pep, but then that Centurion season, I mean, you saw it. I mean, the guy was just absolutely threading the needle game in, game out, and then coming through with so many clutch goals. And, you know, and then also too, also be remembered for that assist that got us the 100 points as well. And, you know, from there, it was like, it didn't really matter from then on what he was going to do. It's like, you knew that as long as he had longevity, he was always going to have a legacy, basically. And he certainly proved that all the way through. You know, I mean, some seasons were slight write-offs, you know, just because of long-term injuries and things like that. But, you know, he was always a clutch player, you know, in a lot of games and a lot of performances that were very, very important, you know, given how much of a tightrope it was with Liverpool, you know, for a few seasons there as well too. But, you know, it's going to be a big hole that's going to be missing in the team. But, you know, you got to think like a player of that quality for so long, of doing it at such peak for so long, that you just wonder what's going to come through in future generations who will be talking about the influence that Kevin De Bruyne had on them. You know, because not only the guy said it in his interview after the game, he said not only did he love playing the game, but he loved playing it almost old school. And like, you know, when I grew up watching football, like I remember watching exceptional passes of the ball. Like one that stands out for me was Guti from Real Madrid. Now he wasn't known as, he didn't do it as regularly as say what Kevin De Bruyne did, but his pinpoint passing, his accuracy, and that his vision was on another level, almost the version of KDB for that generation. And you know, there's just so many things, or so many amazing moments that we've had with Kevin De Bruyne, and you know, his whole career is just a highlight reel. And you know, I think I can speak on behalf of everybody, you know, 20, 30, 40 years from now, provided all of us are still around, you know, we'll still be watching all those highlights. You know, those 2 assists against Stoke in the 7-2 game still stands out for me. Like there's no one else at that time. You definitely knew there was no one else in football that could do that sort of thing. And I can just look back on his 10 years here with just absolute admiration and gratitude that, like, yes, thank you, Mr. Kevin De Bruyne, for choosing our club. You could have gone to Madrid. You could have gone to Bayern. You could have gone anywhere, but you chose to come to the blue side of Manchester. And, you know, we're forever indebted to you. And, just enjoy that lifetime season ticket. I don't know if you still need to go to 10 games next season, but I do hope we can get to see him around the traps in the near future. And, hopefully, it's not really a trending thing at the moment in 2025, or hasn't been for a few years, but hopefully we do give him, and maybe David Silva, who I think Rich and I will agree is probably our favourite Manchester City player of all time, they finally get the testimonials that they deserve, because we all want to give them the proper send-off, and, you know, because we can't repay them for what they've given to us for so many years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we'll probably get on to Pep's comments shortly, you know, what he said last night. But you could see the emotion last night from Pep. You know, he knows what he's done. He knows how much he's going to miss him. You know, and you do think there's a lot of talk about is Pep too emotional, too attached to certain players right now. The older players like Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Gundo, you know, and as partly is that where this comment's come from, that, you know, he feels that he ultimately maybe just didn't want to lose Kevin De Bruyne. You know, we know what a magical player, even he has struggled this season. There's no denying that. You know, he's definitely lost a yard of pace. You know, some of his passing has been a little erratic, you know, or sloppy. but we know he still has it in him to deliver a ball, to get a goal. We've seen it, this season that he's able to do it. It's just, for me, because he had that pace, he was able to drive through midfield a bit like Yaya Toure did for us. And I feel the problem is that for Kevin De Bruyne, because he's lost that pace now, he's not able to kind of preserve himself like a Modric, able to sit back and just, dictate the play from back in the midfield position like a Rodri or something.
I think
so.
And
that's part of the reason why I think Gundogan might have
a
bit more longevity than Kevin De Bruyne does.
Yeah, he won't stay
because he plays more with his brain as much as he plays with his body. His positioning and overall reading of the game is exceptional to me. It's one of the best in Europe.
It is, but I think it's the right time for De Bruyne to go. I do. As much as I can be sentimental, I think it's the right time. I think we can be honest and saying, we've only seen tiny glimpses in the last 2 seasons of the De Bruyne of the first 8 seasons because of injury, because of fitness, and I do think on him as a player, aging will have more impact than say Gundogan or some of the others where the physicality and pace is a bit less important to their game, or Modric, who was still playing at a high level till 38. But I do think De Bruyne, I think it would be good for him to go to a slightly less physical league where he will get a bit less physicality and hopefully get another 2 or 3 years out of his career at a good level, because I still think he's good. But I think we know in our heart of hearts that we need younger, more physical players in our midfield if we want to win the league, if we want to compete again, because even if we come third this season, we haven't competed for the league. So I do think, as sad as it is, it's maybe the right time. And and it's like we might say that Gundo going a year ago and not coming back, will that have affected Gundo's legacy at all? But the player who some people have written off this season that I would have given man of the match by a mile last night, who I still think has got it if he's given a good rest is Bernardo, who the other one of that trio who I do hope staying, because if that was his last game at the Etihad, I'd be devastated, because he deserves the send off in every bit the same as De Bruyne for me.
Renato rolled back the years yesterday. He was brilliant.
He was running down that wing, making Blue Boys sing.
Yeah, it was good to hear this. It was good to hear her echoing out across the ground as well.
I am going to be with you in a minute. I'm waiting for my modem to kick in, so my apologies.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, the other thing, Rich, for me is I appreciate where you're coming from, and I think Bernardo was really good last night. There's no denying that. But I think what tarnishes sadly his legacy slightly is the amount of times we've heard that he wants to leave. It's not it's not just the one season where he flirted with it. He flirted it over 3-4 seasons that he'd had enough and wanted to go. So and Kevin De Bruyne has never done that. He's never come out and agitated for a move. We know like Real Madrid wanted him, Barcelona's wanted him, and he never ever, we never heard it. So I think the problem is as much as that, it feels like Bernardo should get a better send off. For me, I don't think he deserves it.
Sadly, I disagree, because I look at the pitch, not the newspapers. I don't read the
I know, Rich, but
and Bernardo, there is no player who has put in more effort and played more for that team in the last, probably since someone back in our 99 Joe Royal days. There's no player who every time they've turned out for City has put the effort and their heart and soul into the club. So yes, the papers have said he wants to go, and maybe he did, but it doesn't tarnish a legacy. I judge it on the pitch, and he has never given a second effort. I've seen De Bruyne give up a bit in matches. I've seen De Bruyne sulk on the pitch, but I've never seen that from Bernardo. He's one of the few players
I disagree,
who I've never ever seen sulk. Silva was a bit like that, which is why he was, will be my favourite City player ever.
Yeah.
But I think you just can't fault what Bernardo does on the pitch. And yes, the Daily Mirror says he wants to go to the sunshine, but that's not important. What matters is on the park.
Rich, I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing that I don't say that he hasn't done it on the pitch, because he has, apart from maybe possibly this season where I think he really has struggled, and he has at times, for me, like, I think not shown as much effort as I'd like to have seen from him. So, but past seasons, I agree, he's always put it on the pitch and he's done his best. But the problem is that it's just the optics for me, the way it looks. And that is just why that he won't possibly get the testimonial. He won't get the big goodbye like Kevin got last night, and that goes for a few players. I think most people can turn around and go, I don't have an argument against Kevin De Bruyne, but I think you can have an argument against Bernardo Silva. Do you know what I mean? There are at least there are at least two camps where people will go, like me, say, yeah, he's done it on the pitch, but I didn't want to hear that he wants to leave every season for the last 3-4 seasons. Kevin never did it, So I think
Bernardo, he may have been a situation
how many times did you hear it from
Bernardo?
Bernardo though? How many times did you hear it from Bernardo?
Do you think with Bernardo it's more a case of him, he's having his own mind games with himself, where he's battling familiarity in terms of Portugal over legacy? Because as much as he'd love to go back to Benfica and go back to Benfica or even Barcelona any time in his career, he's probably also had a look at it and realised that, hang on a sec, maybe I can actually have a bigger legacy here at Manchester City than I may have had at those clubs. And he certainly backed it up. And he certainly backed it up as well.
The problem is that decision came last season, the end of last season, where...
Yeah. No, I get it. I think the manner in which he did it leaves a little bit of cause for concern. I get that. But when you've been out the club for 9 years, I think what you did on the pitch will always outweigh what you did off the pitch as well. Some players have different exceptions to that rule as well. But I think at the end of the day, he's always looked at and realised that City was the best option for him. Again, going back to what you said, he may not have gone about it the right way, but every player has a different legacy at a club, so they're obviously going to have a different send-off to other players who've been there for a long time as well. I look at Bernardo Silva, and I think he will get a similar sort of send-off. It won't be on the same. I don't think it won't be treated with the fans at the same level of Kevin De Bruyne, but it'll be very, very fun in the way he will be sent off. Because if you look at it, how many times have you seen funny content with him always bantering or playing practical jokes? Other team members are playing practical jokes. I think if anything, that send off will be a really, really special send off. It'll be funny. Like it'll be more amusing than it will be emotional, because this was emotional with Kevin leaving. But with Bernardo, I think it's more a case of a wonderful player who played alongside some of the best players that this club's ever had, but also at the same time realizing this guy is just a good guy, and he just put 110% at every time he's on the pitch.
Let's hope when he goes his last game, the Scousers have to give him a guard of honour.
Yeah. Well, Premier League fixtures come out 18th of June, so fingers crossed.
But I mean, for me, I think Rich was right earlier. I think because it was all about Kevin De Bruyne last night, and because it was the last home game, I still think there's a possibility that Bernardo goes at the end of the season. I think there's a possibility that Gundo goes at the end of the season. I think it's possible that Kovacic goes at the end of the season. So there are, and it is.
I think Kovacic might have been kicked out by Pep last night. Judging by the way Pep looked at him after 65 minutes and at the end of the game. He can move his
ticket. He can move his ticket to New York a few weeks earlier.
I reckon he
can get acclimatized earlier.
Pep was not happy with him. That's about as angry as I've seen Pep with a player that I can remember. Now, I think Bernardo's staying. He didn't like his going. Ederson looks like he's going. Ederson, he probably doesn't like the fanfare quite as much, but in truth, is every bit as Ederson has been every bit as important to Pep City as Kevin De Bruyne. Arguably, you could make Ederson the most important player in Pep City. It was really him joining that was the catalyst to changing us from what we were to Centurions. So it would be sad to see him go. But in a way, he does seem like the sort of person who just wants to slip out the back door with no one looking. And I can't imagine Ederson having fanfare and laps of the pitch and stuff. But
if there was going to be something, Rich, it should be Ederson getting interviewed by Scott Carson, because about the bond that those two have, and it'd be it'd be quality content. Like, it'd be so funny to watch. But I get what you're saying. Ederson, I think, would be a little bit more sort of discreet about things. But the thing I wanted to say is, and I think we're going to probably have a little bit of a chat about these players potentially leaving because they deserve it. Like, they deserve a good. We deserve to talk about them. But Ederson is. I always feel so disappointed for Ederson, because you seem to, over the last couple of seasons, it's always been negatives about the occasional bad performance here and there. But I think people have completely overshadowed just how damn good he was in that Champions League run in 2023.
Yeah, I
know we had very, very good defense in that too, and you could say he didn't have as many opportunities as other keepers do. But sometimes that's even tougher. When you're spending the best part of maybe 20 to 30 minutes in between having to make saves, it's really hard to stay on your toes, and he did that. He made some crucial saves, particularly in that first leg against Bayern Munich. You remember that second half? I think Leroy Sané had about 4 or 5 pops at him from about 18 yards in about the first 15 minutes. So, those were the sort. I think those those sort of games stand out for me. And we forget about the saves that he made in Istanbul as well too, and it just gets way too overlooked, and it's always overshadowed by poor performances just from the last couple of years. And that he doesn't deserve that in any way.
The way he changed the club, the way we play football. I think for 5 years, I think he was for 5 years the first name on Pep's team sheet. I think until Rodri took over as the first name on the team sheet, I think Ederson was the one player who was always starting. And I know that's more likely with goalkeepers, but I think he was exceptional, and I don't think he's ever got the credit from City fans or from football that he deserves, because quite simply, offensively, he was worth 20 goals a season to us in the way he started playing. Yes, he might concede 3 or 4, but that's net 16, and there's no other goalkeeper in the world football who was, having that effect on a team. And, I've never seen a cooler player in the flesh, where he would just have a ball. You're Mr. thinking nonchalant. For the first 2 seasons, we're all screaming, boot it in the stand. We're absolutely bricking ourselves, and then he just casually, lays it off.
He's doing bloody Cruyff turns inside the 6-yard box.
Yeah, so I think De Bruyne got all the plaudits, but I think there may be others who we won't see again at the Etihad. I think Bernardo's staying. He didn't look like a player who's leaving to me, but I think he'll probably see out his contract.
Just to talk about Ederson, just before we move on to other players, for me, like Ederson, I think you're right, Rich. Like, one of the most cracking goalkeepers I think we've seen in this league. For me, he changed, kind of like Pep changed the way other managers manage in the Premier League. I think Ederson did that for goalkeepers. Do you know what I mean? He completely changed the way other goalkeepers play now. And I think the reason he doesn't get the plaudits that maybe he should is because of Alisson. Do you know what I mean? Because Alisson is has lauded as the best goalkeeper, the most.
I know, and we've seen so many Alisson errors against City. When Ederson and Alisson have gone head to head for City and Liverpool, we've probably seen a dozen bad mistakes from Alisson, and you could count on one hand. Top of mind really only comes the silly penalty, but whereas Alisson's passed it to City, he's knocked it into his own goal, he's let someone stand. Alisson has had mares against us time and time again, and I think that's probably means I underrate Alisson, because I've seen him against City and he's looked like Fabian Barthez on a bad day.
I think there's no denying that Alisson is not a top goalkeeper. I think the problem is that I think because of he's the Brazil's number 1, and because I think Ederson is slightly overshadowed, because Ederson really only plays
because of Scousers in the media.
Well, there's that, but I think it's also
because of Scousers in the media. Yeah,
all right, Alan.
But there's also the fact that he plays in Pep's system. He plays under a manager. I don't think Ederson works in probably any other system really like that he does under Pep. You know, the way he manages him, the way he plays out, it just works. Where Alisson, I think, probably can play under anybody and do what he does. Do you know what I mean? But for me, you know, he's still the Guinness World Record for, you know, the furthest distance. I think he still holds that, and I think he still holds the most assists for goals of any goalkeeper. So, yeah, I think. Sorry, Martin.
Oh, here we go.
So if he leaves.
Okay.
I don't even know whether even happy the bloody goalies anymore because that's changing constantly. So Diego Costa seems to have done it now. No, again, my apologies. I've had issues with Wi-Fi, as you can say. So good afternoon. Carry on, boys. I'll give my point in a minute about the game.
Yeah, we haven't gone on to the game.
Yeah, we need to get on to
we need to. It's a post-match, which has been more about, you know, the last time we might see certain players. But
see what happens when I'm not around people. They go on their own little direction and off they go.
Yeah.
They waffle around.
Great show.
Well, apologies, this didn't become Blues Down Under. Otherwise, it would have had.
Listen, last night I thought was a great game. I thought played really well. I love that team. I think it was so balanced. I think it gives us balance. I can go through him. Gundogan rolled back the years last night. Kovacic was very good until he did his silliness. Even though Diaz. Thought Nunes was great until he did his little party piece at the end, which was just like, why are you doing that, Nunes? You don't need to do it. Other than that, he was absolutely great. Haaland, for all his criticism, thought ran his bollocks off last night.
Yeah.
Was right, was left, was everywhere. Mamouche, amazing. Crowd, amazing. KDB can't score from a yard out. What more can you say about that?
Well, it wouldn't be City without him missing an open net for 5 yards. So
I think the commentary here said it best. That was the goal of the season.
That Ederson's distribution was absolute naff last night. He was slicing balls left, right, and all over the shop. The one thing that he's known for, it was one of his weakest things last night, weirdly enough. I don't know why.
Emotional. He was obviously getting
emotional. It was a weird one watching him do it last night with Ederson.
Emotional. It's his last game.
Very weird. But no, I was Bernardo down the left was very good. Kanji's my only not weak spot because I don't want to say, but I thought Kanji stood out like a sore thumb for the wrong reasons. So, Rich, that's 2 games in a row you've been in the mud on the Akanji agenda you're running at the minute.
No, we haven't got Stones or Ake, so
no, he's not doing it, mate. I don't care.
We don't have someone else.
Ever since you've said, get a Kanji in the team, he's having mare after mare.
I think we need
Stones will come good in America.
I think we need 3 proper defenders. Now, I'm not saying, you know, for me, it's John Stones every time. You know, he's the first name on the team sheet if he's fit.
I just think we suit this overlapping fullback. Thought Nico Gonzalez was very good when he come on.
Mm-hmm.
The irony was Rodri got the loudest cheer of the whole frigging night last night with the weirdest situation and all of that. It was like we just signed some Ballon d'Or player, and it was like, whoa!
I think the cheer he got when he went out and warmed up was bigger than anything Kevin got. It was loud on TV.
Sadly,
I can't imagine what it was like on the ground.
No, I just thought it was great. We were positive. We were first half. Second half, we had a little bit of a lull for 20 minutes. But I thought first half, we were direct. We were passing the ball with a bit of zip. We were doing everything that we weren't doing in that cup final. Now, I don't mind control, but I want control with tempo. I thought
part of that's Bournemouth. Because Bournemouth,
because they didn't play a low box 12.
Palace,
yeah. I was going to get to that. Do you think the way Bournemouth came out and played, knowing that they were an outside chance of Europe before this game, sort of played to our advantage as well.
I think that's what really won us the game, is that I think Bournemouth were poor. That was probably one of the poorest performances I think I've seen from Bournemouth. Is they didn't control any point of the game. They didn't really get their attackers into the game. Yeah, they had a couple of threats, but I didn't think they were anything serious. And I think, in all honesty, it just felt that City had all the control, had the better chances. But I still think if we'd have been playing a better team than Bournemouth last night, I kind of wonder where things may have gone. No, I just think I'm talking about the opposition.
Did you see Kirkes though? Kirkes didn't just have a good game. He plays like you look at that sort of player, he's going to Liverpool. He is like the perfect sort of wing back for Liverpool. You can see why they're interested in him.
He got beat nearly every time.
Sorry?
Got beat nearly every time.
Yeah,
but I'm talking about attack wise. Like some of those crosses
Liverpool,
he whipped in. That's such a Liverpool thing.
Yeah. Liverpool have built their team around a defender who can't defend. He gets beaten every time. I mean, Docky beat
rapid wing backs who can whip a no crossing.
29 times in the first 63 minutes when he played against him last season.
And Hojson, if that's what Real Madrid are buying, I know it's Arsenal one game, but my God.
Yeah, Hojson was a weird one because, he was terrible, but then occasionally he'd come in and make some good challenges. He wasn't consistent over the whole 90.
Yeah, but the fans last night, I was rocking, and I have got some videos that I can share because my own videos are not copyright. So kiss me rear end, YouTube and Sarah. I copyright my own stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that
Ronald, you need to give up on Burt's. That is official. You're not doing Burt's, Ronald. You need to give that on, mate.
It's done. We're moving.
I think, Martin, that goal as an individual goal, Marmoush's goal is probably the best you've seen.
I've got to say, Rich, I've never heard 50,000 people.
It was unbelievable.
Breath. It was like we didn't celebrate it; we gasped at it.
Do you know what it was, Martin? It sounded like, on TV to me, do you know what it sounded like? It sounded like a collective, like, whoa. It actually sounded like, whoa. It sounded more like when Boca or River Plate score a goal, that deep, raucous sort of roar almost in a way. Like there wasn't a yeah to it. There was just like this, whoa, like just blown away. Like I think on a smaller scale, like you remember when Haaland scored that overhead kick against Southampton treble season? Obviously, it was a lot less people, like there was away fans. But the sound that they made was just like, it was just gasping, just like absolutely blown away by that. And the more you look at it, the better it gets. That's how damn bloody good it is.
It's the old adjective, and I'm sorry for using it, but the postage stamp. He went, see you later, top corner, see you. It was the swerve, it was the dip, it was everything about it. I mean, I joked. I think I put it in the group chat. I said it to my son. I said, that's my moosh bag 2 weeks' wages. Because he's hit one. But then I looked at all three goals. All three goals were bangers last night.
Yeah. I mean, that Nico Gonzalez goal was
even the Bernardo one. Bernardo made his own goal by that tackle. The ball goes loose, and he tackles to get the ball back.
And then Gundo, beautiful.
Do you know there was a moment about 5-6 minutes into the game where I was absolutely yelling at my phone watching the game when Mamouche wasn't in the right place at the right time, because I think there was a period there where we come down the right hand side, and I think it was either Gundogan or Nunes had cut the ball back into the center of the 18-yard box. Mamouche was off a few yards, like maybe say 25 yards ahead, and I wonder if maybe that's one of the ones where Pep was absolutely grilling him at some point there. I think it was either halftime or full time. Someone like Gundogan, or like a peak Gundogan, would be waiting in the middle of the box there to pick that ball up, bang, straight in the goal. Mamouche wasn't there, and I think that's one of those ones where next season he needs to start doing that. Otherwise, he's going to see more time on the sidelines. But if you have a look at it back, it's about somewhere between the 5th and 6th minute. Watch the cutback. They cut it back to just empty space in the 18-yard box, and deep down, if that was from a couple of seasons ago, there would have been players lining up to put that ball away, and that's probably one of the things that would be missing big time this season.
But I think the thing for me is that all those goals, as you said, Martin, I think they all would have got a bit of a fine for, because it's not particularly what Pep always wants. But those moments are what some of these players can do. I mean, Mamouche has been doing it in the Bundesliga for a couple of seasons now. You know, he scored some absolute bangers like that in the Bundesliga. So it's kind of like, well, this is what he can do, and this is. I think that the thing for me is that what slightly worries me, and this goes back to looking at the Southampton game, is we're not playing to some of these players' strengths. Sadly, you know, Haaland, we haven't always played to his strengths, and I think that's
the trouble is, and I think you say this. I don't think our opponents allow us to play to Haaland's strength. If we have the ball and a player and another team goes into a 10-man block, and there's nothing we can do to stop that, then we are automatically not playing to Haaland's strengths, and therefore, I think you're being a bit harsh because I don't know. We can't play to his strengths.
I think it's more that it's been this season, Rich. It's just been. I'm not saying that Pep isn't brilliant, and I've suddenly just got off Pep. It just feels this season he hasn't got the best out of some of the players, and I just think going forward that needs to change, because not every team is going to keep playing the low block. We're going to have moments where we're going to be able to kind of go and play it against opposition. You know, it just feels to me that he hasn't had the right, the right method to get through some of these low blocks. And I just think, it's been very, for me, it worked last night where it's been control, but that slow passing is still a problem. It needs to be a lot quicker, especially against the bigger teams, do you know what I mean, who are going to, have that on us.
So someone going on to your front door, but you got a parcel. The reason I was doing that is a quick one, and we'll come to it. Do you remember the Jack Gorn Q&A that was done for City the other day in the Daily Mail? We read it out. Do you remember when he talks about all them Q&A that he did? The Nottingham Forest correspondent has done the same thing in the Mail, called Tom Colosimo, someone. And he's done a Q&A.
In relation to Simon?
Yeah, definitely.
No, so Tom Colosimo, not that crap Australian fullback we bought.
You can't get away with that because this isn't Blues Down Under this week.
Well, yeah, he's done one.
I smell bullshit.
Looks like there were rumours last night that he's agreed a deal with Forest to extend. The Forest people are basically, the journalists saying potentially no, because he said, as the Morgan Gibbs-White unsaid, I can share it if you want. Nuno Espirito Santo has definitely been frustrated at the constant noise around this and alluded to it in recent press conferences. I'm not sure Guardiola's very public chat with Gibbs-White on the pitch helped. I think Gibbs-White has certainly been turned to an extent, but you can't argue with the last couple of performances. He then said, do you think, where is it? Talks about Gibbs-White will probably go for around 70 million quid, which we said was never going to be 100. It was going to be around that 70 million mark, which he seems to like. And then he said, is there still time for him to sign a deal? To where the response, I just want to make sure I get it right. Where is it? But yeah, there was an actual question of, do you think he'll sign it? Where is it? Last stadium plans. That's I know. Where is it? I will get it. Will Forest offered to make Gibbs-White the highest paid player in the club? His exact quote is, I think that boat has sailed. Forest would have loved to have signed to a new deal during the season, but it takes two to tango. Discussions have never really developed in a serious way, perhaps because Gibbs-White was aware of interest from rivals in the background. The 25-year-old has 2 years remaining on his contract, but it would be a huge surprise if the Sunday's meeting with Chelsea at the City Ground was not his final game in a Forest shirt. So there you go. That's coming from the Forest, like their version of Jack Gorn in the Mail. So,
Well,
yeah.
that'll please some and not others.
Sorry, Hamza. Sorry, Hamza. Anyone who's in the spaces will know what I mean by that. Hamza hates him. Hamza's like, he's not having him at all. Said he's a pot washer. Morgan Gibbs White and Hamza don't get on like Alan and Nunes, which brings me somebody else. Mateus Nunes.
Well, this season we haven't got any pots to wash, so we
Genuine
need a
honest
pot
question.
washer in.
If Nunes is a tram driver to Allen, what does that make Gibbs White an engineer?
A
Conductor?
change of position for Nunes moving forward. Don't mean permanently, but as in we no longer start thinking of him as a midfielder.
Right, it's like Fabian Delph, hasn't he? He's had obviously not as good a season and not as impactful, but yeah, I think he's had a Fabian Delph season where everyone thought when he was picked fullback the first time that was absolutely ridiculous, but actually has ended up having a good season. And in since January, it's hard to argue that Nunes isn't one of our better players. And I think, Alan must feel a bit silly about his comments because
no,
Nunes is showing him he's wrong.
I kid you not. Alan was quiet as a mouse for me for 50 minutes.
Until Nunes did the back pass. Yeah.
Not to peep. And then in the second half, when we had a 10-minute sort of lull, when Kovacic got sent off.
Yeah.
My phone beep, 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 beep. Alan. Shit. We're throwing it away. What are we doing? We're going to chuck this away. Blah, blah, blah. Then we go to 3-0. Goes quiet again on that. Soon as Nunes does that back pass, told you he's shit. Get him out. Yep. Tram driver. I'm like, Alan, what are you doing, mate? You're just moaning for the sake of moaning here, mate.
Yeah.
It was funny because I think he did the exact same thing to Daps as well last night. I'm like, I was texting Daps going, have you heard from him yet? He went, nope. And then all of a sudden he went, yep.
Oh, no. There's a few City fans who think that, Rodri's rubbish and, I'm not sure if they, Plodri and all that and, City fans who thought that. And I wonder when he got the Ballon d'Or whether that he was still Plodri or whether, finally at that. But I just think fans are stubborn, aren't they? When you get in your head that someone's no good, you stick with it.
Because it's the thing is replacing KDB. And the thing
it's not. KDB left in 23.
Potentially at Echeverri. Pep's already made the comments. Yeah. We are going to come to the comments. I know that's caused a meltdown. If I have a big squad, I'm quitting. That's caused a meltdown. Because everyone thinks he wants a squad of 16. No, he just doesn't want a squad of 29 where he has to leave 5 players at home every week.
I thought he said 24.
I thought he said 24. It's been reported as 24 from what
I... 20, because the trouble is, you can only take 20 men to a game.
Unless it's Champions League.
Well, Champions League. But majority of the time, I don't think he wants to leave people at home. Rico Lewis and McAtee were not even in the squad last night.
Echeverri wasn't there either.
Echeverri wasn't. John Stones wasn't. Victor Hayes wasn't.
I think the problem is that we've all pretty much been crying out for a bigger squad, but I think it just comes down to how that squad is managed and what sort of players you're going to have on the bench, and then what sort of academy kids you're also going to have. No one can deny that. I think we all want Pep to have that core of players that he relies on most of the time in the 11 that are starting a game. But I think with the amount of games that are piling up and just the pressure on not only on their physical but also the mental well-beings for the players, I think he just has to accept that you are going to need a few more players. And I'm not saying he needs a 20-man squad at all, but I think the realization that even he had a few months back saying, yeah, I do need a bigger squad. So it's a bit weird that all of a sudden now he is saying, if I don't get what I want, I'm quitting. I think is it just more that he is just mentally fatigued from this season? Is he just mentally just like?
I think it's partly that. I think it's Yeah, I think it's also a justification. His justification of why De Bruyne's going. I think it's I think it's all about the fact that people see, Pep has said De Bruyne can go. De Bruyne obviously didn't want to go. That's pretty clear. And I think some of this is Pep's way of, telling everyone why De Bruyne had to go. I think it's more about that than the message to the board or anything else. And probably because Pep's looking at the reception to De Bruyne and thinking, he's probably, there's a little bit of guilt or a little bit of, defending himself from that.
I mean, for me, looking at kind of those players that we all feel that are either need to go or are definitely coming to the end of their time at City, you look at it and probably go, I could have understood if they decided to give Kev one more season and then let the rest go, because he can produce magic and he can, he is that player.
He's not letting him go. He's not letting him go. Look at him. You can see it.
It's not that. It's not that at all. I'm not saying he shouldn't go or not, but what I'm saying is that for me, out of all the players, especially in that midfield, that I think can produce that magic, for me, he can do that. And for me, it's that I personally don't think Kevin could accept a reduced playing time. I don't think he could accept that he would have had to.
That's what I think.
I think he would have had to reduce the minutes. I think he would have maybe have reduced his contract. I don't think he felt that he feels that I am still at the top of my level, and I can still play for one of the big clubs. And I think that is why he's made some of the comments he has. I don't think he goes to a rival. I think he does probably more likely go to either abroad, as in Europe, or he does go to the MLS.
I'll be honest, I don't think Kev has played at more than 80% of his best for over 2 years at City. I don't think we've seen De Bruyne at even 90% since the 23 season.
Has he been fit for 2 years, or Rich?
No, I don't think he has, but I actually think it's not just fitness, it's also age, and he just doesn't quite have the drive and the pace that he did have, because his drive, his athleticism, he's not docu pace, but he was quick and he had those. And I don't think, even if fully fit and injuries aside now, he's a physical presence. I think we saw the same in a way with Yaya. Yaya, exceptional footballer in so many ways, but when he lost that physicality to his game, the drop off was huge. And I worry that we're seeing a bit of that with De Bruyne. Whereas David Silva, his game was always technique. It was never about physicality. So David Silva, you can see, except for his really serious injury, still playing in Spain at 37. He could have probably gone to 38, 39, because it's technique. It's not physicality. And I do think, you've seen it with, we saw it with Yaya. The drop off was big. And I think that was happening with De Bruyne. I'm not saying Yaya didn't accept it, and I don't think De Bruyne will accept it, but I think
got some next. I'm just let me just share this. Sorry, this is, I'm loving this going out in the day. You get all the news as it breaks. Like you, this sort of stuff. Anyway, right, X, as you can see there. Fabrizio Romano's put this out 5 minutes ago. Kevin De Bruyne will make a decision soon on his next club. Napoli have made important contract proposals to KDB. They'll be ready to close the deal any moment from now. Chicago Fire bid remains on the table since April. KDB will decide with his family. If anyone wanted to know, by the way, that's where the Morgan Gibbs White stuff come from. It's behind a paywall, but I do pay for it, $1.99 a month. I know I'm sad, but you want the proper. I don't like reading tidbits off X. I like to get in the nuts and the bolts of it all. Pause. But yeah, there you go. That is from Tom Colossimos, or whatever his name is. He's obviously very similar to the Jack Gordon version of us. And that's, you can see the bit here is about Morgan Gibbs-White. And then you can pause and have a read of that if you want. And there's the thing about what we have to spend in the market, 70 million. Wolves have a 10%.
I can still only see Fabrizio Romano.
Can you?
Yeah.
Oh, frig, what's he doing? Can you? Has it gone off?
Pat and Ozzy were just going to let you, carry on, but
did no one touch? Jesus Christ! Hang on. There we go. Right, there it is. So there's the stuff there about as Morgan Gibbs-White been unsettled by the links to Manchester City. Talks about it in detail. The exact quote I read you. And then further down, and by the way, it looks like Aina has got a automatic 1-year contract extension from Forest, so he's not a freebie. Where's this one? Oh, is it possible Murillo leaves? He said yes, especially if Forest don't qualify for the Champions League. Will Forest offer to make Gibbs-White the highest paid player in the club? Asked David. I think that boat has sailed. So there you go. So I
wouldn't call out Aina in all honesty. I mean, I know he's got that extension, but I think if Forest definitely don't make the Champions League, I still think he would probably angle to leave, and I think with that, you could probably get him at a reduced price. So I wouldn't completely rule that out, because I think with the surgery that the squad needs and the players we're looking at and the amount of money we're thinking about spending, would it be a sensible option to get him on some sort of reduced?
Nah, he's past 30. He's past 30. If you get him for free, I get it, but I wouldn't be paying money for him. I'm not past 30.
But I mean, Richard, if we all know that really and truly, Nunes probably isn't up to it.
I'd rather have Nunes. I'd rather have Nunes than a 30-odd-year-old Aina.
I mean, again, there's been a lot of talk about age at times, but I think if you have him for a couple of seasons and it's just a stopgap until you can get who you want, someone who plays really well in that position.
Yeah, it'd be like when we signed Sanya. It's not what we need. We want someone. Yeah, freebie, I get it, but we want someone younger who can really learn.
I'm not saying we don't,
but around for years.
It's the money we're thinking about spending just on the midfield alone. Can we afford to get 2 fullbacks in plus the midfield? I'm not so sure.
I think I'm actually excited when I look at some of fullbacks there. You can get a Wesley and an Ignora. It's going to be some force moving forward. Elliot has asked
Nori, yeah.
Destroy your
range. For that.
I think the Wesley stuff, though, for me, it's you're bringing a player, and it's worked out for us with Alvarez, but Alvarez was 24, nearly 25 when he came to us. Had a lot of experience. Had also played in the national team. Wesley, I think he's still. It's a bit of a gamble for me to say, he's suddenly going to become our permanent fullback replacement for the likes of Walker. I think that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody at that age and that experience. So I think you've got to be. For me, I'd want someone to come in with more experience, at least with.
I'd rather have MN27 than Aina, honestly.
Rich, Elliot's joined us.
Has he?
Hello,
Elliot.
Yes, hello.
About you?
Says you're talking crap on Johnny Stones.
I'm not having anything said about Johnny
Stones. Go on,
Elliot.
Yeah, I'll let you and Rich go at it.
I'll set DC on him if
he's on mute now.
If we have any.
Get off mute.
That's because someone in bunny ears has come round his house
Hit the
with a
unmute
hammer.
button.
Just before you two talk, I mean, I can only imagine
Pat, just move slightly to your side. Just open, Johnny.
Do we feel now that just because I've got to drop in a few minutes, just to finish off for me at least, do we feel that Champions League football is secure for next season then after last night's game?
I think
all
after
we need is
85
a draw,
minutes,
isn't it, technically?
Yeah, I think after 85 minutes, we will be out of the Champions League places. But we're going to have a special end of the season, Gundo, Aguero, Gabriel Jesus, and we're going to get in with a draw in the 89th minute. And I think the places are going to change I think during the day, I think Forest will go ahead against Chelsea. Chelsea will come back. I think Villa are going to go behind and come back. I think it's just going to be chaos. And we're not going to know till the last minute who's there.
Us to lose, and 3 teams win.
Yeah. But I think after 85 minutes, we will be out of the Champions League places. But then our moment of glory will come and we'll have another exciting end to the season.
Yeah, I think
it's not going to be a walk in the park. It's going to be
I think whatever happens, I think the crucial one is you've got Chelsea and Forest playing each other. And I just think with that sort of game, I don't think both teams want to give anything up, and I could easily see it turning into a draw. And of course, if that's a draw, then that means that kind of makes our whatever happens at Fulham null and void.
Yeah, I think God has probably struck down Elliot's internet, because if he was going to say anything against the son
John
of God,
Stones has struck down his internet. Okay,
Johnny Stones, then it's like Johnny's taking it out, not having any of that nonsense. No, I think it's going to be exciting. I do genuinely think there's going to be a chunk of Sunday where City are out of the Champions League, and Alan is going to be going like, turn your phones off, because Alan is going to be just going absolutely ridiculous. We're all going to be swearing about Martin on the chat going to the game, because City always.
I'm not going. I'm not going. My brother's got my ticket.
I will probably be all right then.
So,
we'll be fine.
4-0 up at half time. Your track record's not getting any better, Martin.
I've won. Yeah. I've got a 90% track record in away games this season.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Wolves away.
I've heard such rubbish.
No, Wolves away 1. West Ham away 1. Ipswich away 1. Wembley 1. I can go on.
Which Wembley won?
Semi-final.
Well, your Wembley record's 50% now.
Sunshine.
Yeah.
Southampton, by the way.
We can't let that Southampton one slide.
Southampton Palace.
It's a noose around your neck.
That point at Southampton, that point in the derby away isn't so much of a bad point no more, is it?
It's not good either.
No, yeah. Sorry, Martin.
I never said it was good, but it wasn't the meltdown that everyone was like, ah.
I'm sure you still had a meltdown over it, though, if I remember rightly.
Oh, you have a meltdown over everything.
Rich, you're still of the hope that we beat Fulham 7-0 and Arsenal lose to Southampton.
That's why I enjoyed last night so much. It was like, yay, happy clappers unite. We all loved it last night.
Now Martin's not going. I'm back on that.
Thank goodness, Rich.
I'm just going to play these. I was going to send them tomorrow, but I do want to play these. This was before the game.
Just before you do, I do have to drop, mate. So I will catch everybody on the next one. Guys.
Take care.
Thanks, mate. See you in a bit.
See you later, guys.
Oh, he's just sorting his Wi-Fi out. It will be on. So while we're waiting for Elliot to come and destroy Rich, I'm just going to play you these. there was that, and then this was at the end, which was not shown on TV.
All of the time. Say that you need me. Always be mine. 'Cause we got Guardiola, we got Guardiola, we got Guardiola. So glad you're mine.
So there you go. There you go. Yeah, but LB showed the City stuff. I've not. I've shown my stuff. That's my stuff. City don't own my stuff. City can't copyright my videos from my own phone. So let them try. LB was showing the other stuff from City themselves. If I'd have shown it from City, like the official City stuff, like the YouTube stuff, then we'd have been in trouble. I'd be questioning City's quality if they were putting stuff like that on.
I'd be questioning the bloody singing. Jeez.
Oh, you leave my singing alone last night. I was crying like a baby last night. Bibbing like a bobber.
You're a couple of notes off.
Don't use that as an excuse to say that let down your singing.
Yeah. Yeah. With my Welsh singing heritage, it's that. It's not quite baritone. It's not quite tenor. It's just slightly
fresh Welsh. That fresh Welsh air.
The harmony. It'll just be awful. Be awful
from the valleys.
Yeah.
In from the valleys.
Tell you what, though, I cried like a baby last night, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I cried, and I cried when I must have cried about 4 times before the game when his wife and his children started talking about him on the screen. I cried when bloody Joe Hart was talking, and everyone was Abaleta. It was just Sergio, Sterling, Sane. It was like.
You cried when you saw Riyad Mahrez.
What was Joe Hart doing with the buzz cut? Where's his head and shoulders?
Someone said he's having an hair transplant.
What? Bloody 10 years ago, he's doing head and shoulders adverts.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden he doesn't know if he needs a rug or a plug.
Martin, is Elliot coming? Because I need to get to bed. It's bloody getting on for midnight here. And
I don't know. Elliot, you coming on? He wants to go to bed. He said he's sorting his Wi-Fi.
Yeah, but he'll be putting bars on his windows when he's been rude about Johnny Stones. Well, there's a lot of Johnny Stones fans out there who won't take kindly to.
Well, I used to be rich, but I'm sorry, mate. He's got to go. He's got to go, mate. He's got to go. Come on.
See, Rich, this is you.
Oh, my words.
He's the next Mike Summerby. He'll be sitting there talking about Kevin De Bruyne's grandkids on the video in about 50 years' time.
So you want to go on a hospital bed for the next
trophy tours in 5
8
years?
months? Come on.
I want us to show the respect that he deserves and actually manage him like we did Company, or you know, Villa did Paul McGrath, or Tottenham did Ledley King, because he's that good. He needs to have training set so that he can stay fit, and we don't play him 3 games in a week.
Yeah, You got to admit, regardless of the
Listen,
injuries,
you will get it.
he's probably got the biggest cult following at City in terms of the current squad,
Oh yeah, he has. But
hands down.
I'm just saying that next season, that if it happens again, I know this fan base, they'll turn again. That's why I'm saying this summer, do the right thing, move on, give him all the plaudits as probably our biggest cult hero since company. You know what I mean?
He's not going to move
Yeah,
on. He's not
Josh,
going to move on.
if you think he came back to full fitness and had a season that was sort of on a similar path to what he did in the treble season, would you allow him to sort of renew year by year, kind of similar to what we did with, like, say, Fernandinho?
But that's
the quota helps. If year by year, if he just stays around for another year by year, it does help the quota. And you've got to. I'm not going to say reliable, but you've got a player who offers so much to that squad when he's fit.
Pat, in the treble season, he was a shout for the best player in the world that year.
Yeah,
no doubt in the top 5 players in the world. So if he had a season like the treble season, we'd be giving him a 5-year deal and naming a stand after him. I mean, he can play half at the level of the treble season.
I want it to be a reality more than others, Rich. I know. Yeah. I know.
No, but it's true. He was absolutely exceptional, and he showed glimpses of that. I thought,
Rich is done.
Yeah, no, but not this summer. Let him just see how. Let him just see how the rest of his contract. Just see how.
Elliot, please come back, mate.
He's not going this summer.
Give him the truth, man.
I think the low quota will help him.
Rich, I know you're right. So you look at you in your early 60s now, yeah? So in your early 60s.
If you're in your late 50s.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah.
So Rich in his early 60s, you'd stay fitter than John Stones next season. Sadly.
Exactly.
I tell you, not if I had to play 3 games in a week.
No, there's even 2, Rich. Just 2 games. World class. You be fit.
I think we all knew against Madrid. I saw the conversations before the game. 3rd time in a week, City are stupid. But we made that mistake. I think we have to respect him like we did Vinny Company. And we got one of Vinny Company's best seasons out of him after he'd had worse injuries and missed more games than Johnny Stones. And Johnny Stones is a better player than Vinny Company. And, I think that's, as certainly as a base of the team. And I think we owe the City fans, we owe football, and we owe Johnny Stones the chance to actually play him sensibly, let him show that he's still got it, which he has. And if he gets to the end of his if he does get injured again and the medics say that's permanent, then he goes at the end of his contract. But he's not going anywhere because we'd have to pay him. We'd have to pay another club 150 grand a week to take him, and we're not going to do it. So
you mean 250 a week? Not 150, 250 a week.
I reckon someone would take him, punt on him for 100 grand a week.
Yeah, if an offer was made, of course.
Yeah, but I think he stays, and I think I think he'll stay, and I think that we just need to use him far more sensibly. I thought with all our defenders this year, we've been like Liverpool, where it used to be with strikers. I think we've risked Nathan Ake's career, and I think him getting that same injury 3 or 4 times, I think his career's at risk now, and that's because City played him when they shouldn't have played him. I think we've risked Johnny Stones by playing him when we shouldn't have played him, and I don't think we helped Akanji or Diaz either. I think both Diaz and Akanji need months off because we played players when we shouldn't have played them, and we should have paid Simpson Puzzi or found someone else to go in the defence. Even Calvin Phillips and played him in defence because we have done all our defenders a disservice this year. And that's for me, the biggest disappointment in Pep this year is him playing players when he knows he shouldn't have done.
It's not just that. It's like, like with Barcelona, Inter Milan, Arsenal, and I forgot the other one. I think it's PSG, They had their defences set. And we might have had chemistry. So the pairing wasn't changed every week. There was probably one player that's changed, but there's a main constant defender that's always there. And because we risked so much of Diaz and Akanji, because obviously Stones and Ake just kept on getting injured, it put more strain on them. So for us, we couldn't get a consistent partnership. Gavardia, which I feel more sorry for, by the way, because he's had to be shipped out to left back.
Ake and Stones kept getting injured because they kept playing when they shouldn't have been played. I mean, the state of Ake in a couple of games was Ake played one game where he got injured, and you could see from the start he couldn't even run at more than 3/4 pace. And we played him and put him out there. And I genuinely fear that for Ake's career, that the damage he's done this season, unless he has a really, really massive layoff, could be permanent. And that's on City because we played him when we knew his hamstring wasn't fully better. Chucked a couple of needles in him and said, we need you out there. And he was the type of player who said, yeah, I'm going out there, and it's hurting.
That's on Pep.
Yeah, no, I'm not disputing that. We should have played the kids. And if we had played the kids, we might have actually had some of the senior defenders for a lot more games.
It's difficult, man, because
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you, our fitness team has been a disgrace. Our fitness team this year, my word.
Yeah.
And that's why they're going.
We've been good at that. Like, I looked at Liverpool, ruin Fowler, ruin Owen, and ruin Torres.
Three players, double barrels now, Rich.
3 players who were all
double barrel
exceptional forwards who would get 3/4 fit back from injury, and then Liverpool would play him. And all 3 had their careers virtually ended. I mean, Owen had to go and play for, joke clubs like United. Fowler, Leeds, and then City, where he wasn't even a shadow of his former self. And Torres, his career, 3 players' careers ruined by playing when they shouldn't have played. And we've tried to do it to our defence this year.
Right, I'll tell you what, Rich, I'll be the referee. You and Pat can be on the Stone side. Elliot and Darce can be on the Stone side.
But God's on Stone's side, so it doesn't really matter.
Elliot, go on, put your case on now. You've sorted your Wi-Fi out. Or has he sorted his Wi-Fi out? He's still on mute.
Hello, man. Come on.
He'll have to join Thursday night because I can't stay up till 1 in the morning just in case.
His Wi-Fi is shocking.
It's like fucking Kanji last night, man. Fuck,
Right, anyway, Rodra, I'm going to speak on it.
He's off now.
I know he did, but I know he was tired at the end.
Of course you're tired. You know what I mean? It was his first match back from a long injury.
I felt for Grealish a little bit coming on with a minute to go. I don't know what that's. It was a bit pointless. Doku came on. Oscar Bob came on. Who else came on at the end? Oscar Bob, Doku, Grealish. Yeah,
Nico G.
Together, didn't they?
Yeah, they came together
because of Cover's red card.
Yeah, Nico came on earlier. Rodri came, yeah. Because I don't even notice Rodri was one of the first subs made behind Nico. Which I thought was intriguing. He actually got more minutes. So here's a question. We're going to talk about more tomorrow night. Now Cover's got a red card. Does Rodri get 45 minutes on Sunday?
Like you said, Martin,
he might
tired.
have got minutes even if Cover didn't get the red.
Nico starts.
Yeah,
What you got, Rico, by the way? He was going to skip his last night, Rich.
Well, I think once he's got Nunes playing, I think he would have wanted more attacking players on the bench. So, but I think, who knows? See how big our squad gets next season.
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow night we are going to do a very special. We're going to do our. I've named it. Thank you, King Kev. I think tomorrow we should do our special KDBs, and we're also going to go into depth about this. I think we need to look at the squad and properly dig down. Because if Pep Body wants 23, then we're going to have to look at how we do this. We're going to try and solve the issues ourselves. We're going to talk Fulham. Friday, we've got the Waffle Show with me and LB. If anyone else wants to join, more than welcome. And then I don't know if we're doing anything next week because I think it looks like we'll probably have a week off before unless anyone wants to do anything. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow at 9:15. Is anything want to say anything before they jump, leave, finish?
Ooh, Johnny Stones. Johnny.
That's where I leave.
Stones.
Thank you, everyone. Much likes, and yeah.
Pat. Oh,
Sorry, mate.
Go on, mate. Oh, Elliot's here now, but he's on camera, and he won't want to be on camera. Turn your camera off. I'm not having you till your camera's off. There you go. Right.
Can you hear me?
Can hear you now. Do not put your camera on.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on.
You're right, mate.
Yeah, you.
God is against you, and he's mucking up your internet connection as he can.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, to be honest. Yeah, I just wanted to nice to speak to you, by the way, Rich. I don't think I've ever actually
Good to speak to you.
Yeah, I just
I'm usually asleep.
yeah, I just want to know where your John Stone loving comes from. When did it start? Did it start when he joined, or did it start before? Or
No, I think it started about. It probably. I quite liked him at Everton, where he changed the way defenders played the game, made it exciting, kind of the Ederson of defenders when he was at Everton, and then I think he reached a level where he was at his best when he was fit better than Van Dijk, and I've never seen a centre back who can play number 10. Number 8, number 6, number 4, number 5, go to right back, be brilliant. Probably playing goal, probably play centre forward, but we've never given him the chance. And I think even last season when he was fit, I thought the game at Newcastle was the best game any defender in City produced all season by some way. I thought he was a level above it, and I think we need to nurse him. And I think those saying he's not going to play all the games, he's played. Only one less game this season than I think Vinny Company did in the 19 season, which we still laud for Vinny Company's impact. Vinny Company in those last 4 seasons played about 20 fewer Premier League games than Stone has, about 30 games fewer overall, and he was a huge impact. And I think we owe it to Johnny Stones to treat him like Company was treated and actually let him be fit by not playing him, game after game after game, so that when we really need a player who's still capable of being the best offensive defender in world football and a bloody good defensive defender as well, we owe it to him. And we would be stupid to let a player that good go because we haven't actually tried and managed him properly.
But my point would be, is that not a little bit unfair on people like Kev? Because what's not to say, and I know Kev's not been I agree with you, Kev's not been the player he has been in probably the last 2-3 seasons. But what I would say is, if you're giving Stones the chance, where Stones has probably actually, and I don't know this, but I would imagine Stones probably had more niggle injuries than what Kevin De Bruyne has. Is that not a little bit harsh on?
No, if you were asking me, would City renew a contract with Johnny Stones now if he wasn't under contract, that might be a slightly different question. Stones is 4 years younger than De Bruyne, so and arguably centre backs are at their peak in their early 30s, whereas I think attacking midfielders, physical midfielders are probably on the wane. So I think he's in a position with more longevity, but he's under contract. So I think the decision with John Stones happens. Is it till the end of 26 season he's under contract? Has he got a year left? Yeah. So yes, there could be a discussion next January, but I think he stays, and we make a call in February, March, whenever it was we made a call on De Bruyne for Johnny Stones. If he doesn't play between now and February, we won't renew him. But I do think it's slightly different renewing a contract for a player and allowing a player to play who's under contract.
No, I get the John Stones hype. I do get it. Like I said, I think John Stones was probably one of, if not the most important player in the treble season. I'm not thinking that, but I just think sometimes we do, and I get it, we do use different energy for certain players. A sort of argument to be back on that would be if it's not. I was going to say rumor, but it's not a rumor. It's actual fact now because he said it last night after the game with Pep when he said about having a smaller squad and don't want this bigger squad. Can you rely on John Stones to be one of them players? Now, I would look at probably more not this season because I think this season has been a little bit of a freak with injuries. I would look previous seasons beforehand, and I would probably say he has still picked up injuries on them other seasons. Now, so has Nathan Ake. Nathan Ake has the same problem, I suppose, in a way. I think Ake's record is a little bit better than Stones's, but just for the argument's sake, I do think Ake does have this probably the same concern.
Ake was very good up until about two seasons
ago.
The
problem with Ake is that, and this does worry me for Ake's sake, because I think Ake, was the best left back in the country, the season before last. My worry with Ake is he's had hammy. John Stones has ankle, knee, buttock, chest. John Stones has had every injury, which is a concern, but it's often not a repeat injury. Ake has just had hammy. Has he had any other injury except hammy? And I think that's because we played Ake when his hammy wasn't fixed, and it worries me that he'll have done permanent damage. Because we played him, he's got injured. We played him, and I thought that the last game he got injured, I thought he didn't even look like he wanted to run at 3/4 pace, which to me looked like a player who knew he shouldn't be playing, who knew his hammy was about to go, but we still played him, and that's a pity.
There's only so long a painkiller injection works, so Rich, where your body goes, no. That ain't gonna work.
Well, a painkilling injection doesn't heal an injury that isn't. So if you haven't fixed the tear,
I think he's Darren Anderson version 2, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Some will not. I'm sure my age there when I say that. I'm sorry, but anyone knows who Darren Anderson is will know what I mean by that.
Johnny Stones was world class. Darren Anderson was never world class.
No, I'm not talking about the Rich. Take your tongue out of Stones' bum. I understand you love him, and I get it.
I think for City's sake, I think if we let him go and another club manages him, and we're watching the best defender in the world play for another club, and we're paying half his wages to do that for someone else, we will look like the biggest idiots on the planet.
Didn't this rebuild never happen?
But would we not? But would we not with? But to that point, then, Rich, would we not with KDB then if he goes and rips it up for Napoli?
I don't think he will. I don't think I've seen KDB play at his best for over 2 years. I've seen Johnny Stones play at his best.
Hang on, Rich. We've not done this all the time. We did this with Aguero at Barcelona. We did this. Everyone was like, "Oh, he's gone to Barcelona. He's going to rip it up. He's going to do this. He's going to do that."
Different circumstances, though.
To me, the big difference is.
Yeah, I don't mean.
I think Johnny Stones. If Johnny Stones is fit, I think he's still capable of playing his absolute best football. I don't think Kevin De Bruyne is capable of playing his best football.
John Stones or get a potential Matt Gay or Branthwaite. No, Branthwaite's a bad one because he's injury prone.
He's made of biscuits. Yeah.
Matt Gay.
John Stones.
See, it comes back to me because yes, the injury is terrible. But Gay, he can't a fit Gay, he can't even do half the stuff that a fit John Stones can do.
Yeah, he's not. He's just never going to be close to as good.
I love John Stones, Rich, and we are John Stones. I love him, but you're tucking him into bed at night with a cup of tea and a sandwich.
No, I think Rich is more talking with his heart. more than
Yeah,
he's
you're
actually.
talking on the emotional thing. Yeah,
Rich,
I know.
Rich, the big question is
That's
if
a
you
cop-out.
came home from work and you saw John Stones in bed with your wife, which
He
side
took
would you
him
get
in.
in?
Took him
Yeah,
in,
you
wasn't it?
took him in. You took him in.
Would he have his bunny outfit on?
If you walked in and John Stones is dead in the bed with your missus, you're like, cup of tea.
No, Martin. I said, which side would you get in?
Yeah, Rich, you're thinking on your heart now, and I get it.
No.
How do you think? So can I ask you a question then, Rich? So how would you solve this John Stones injury for you? How would you solve him from getting injured?
I would be planning to play him probably 20 times in the league and 10 to 15 times in other games. I would be giving him a week rest. I would be trying to persuade him to retire from international football. And I would be nursing him because I thought 2019, I thought Company was exceptional, but he played less than half our games. But he had a huge impact on the season, not just a goal, but his
we have
quality.
To be very careful with Vinny there for a few
games.
seasons.
But we could not play Vinny. Sometimes we couldn't even play him Saturday to Saturday. And I think John Stones is that good that we have to do that. And I think that gives us room for a fifth centre-back, which is someone like Cousinov, to get more football. I think, Diaz and probably, I assume Akanji will stay. Ake, I really want to know if his hammies are okay, because Ake worries me.
I like that, Alex. Like Ryan Giggs.
Well, the problem is, Rich, I hear what you're saying, but John Stones' actual downfall is how good he is, because when he plays, and I agree with you on this, he is that good, so you can't actually drop him. But then the problem is the injuries. So I do hear that. I do get that, but I'm just more thinking of, can you really not sign a centre half and then risk the centre halves we've had when this season they have? Let's be honest, I've been pretty injury prone.
I think we get a ankle bracelet for Pep that gives him an electric shock.
Okay, then,
if he writes John Stones on a team list within a week.
You were saying we're going to give him an Asbo.
If you had to choose between Nathan Ake and John Stones, which one?
Stones. I don't think Ake has ever been at the level John Stones.
You're about to get booted off from me. Do not go after Nathan. Do not go
I'm not going after Nathan. It's like
Sunshine.
No. Let's put it this way, right? I love Kevin De Bruyne, but I don't think he reached the mercurial peak of David Silva.
I think Ake's better.
That doesn't mean
you're not going to like this, Rich. I think Ake's better in the squad, but his versatility than John Stones is.
I think Stones is just a world-class player, and I'm not sure Ake has ever reached close to. Ake may have reached 80% of peak John Stones. And if you want to be the best team in the world, you want the best players in the world.
Would you say, though, the difference maybe between, say, John Stones and Nathan Ake would be Nathan Ake has squad versatility.
John Stones has manager. I'm becoming his manager after this.
But John Stones, when you look at it, has in-game versatility.
Yeah.
What do you think? Yeah, because I think Ake has squad versatility, but John Stones has in-game versatility, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
he does more in a game, but then Nathan Ake can also cover left centre back, left back, and even play overlap depending on who's in front of him.
I love Ake. I'm not saying anything about Ake other than peak Ake is not as good as
it's just a shame that Martin's making you choose between the two. Like it's
a
real low blow. It's a real low blow.
I'm not trying to put him in that position, but. And I get it. It was like me with KDB and David Silva last night, and I flip-flopped again. Sorry, Elliot. I flip-flopped again today because I went and watched a video of David Silva again in his pomp. Yeah. By the way, it wasn't as bad as Rich. By the way, Rich has Sergio Aguero above KDB.
In terms of players I love.
No, I'm not having that, Elliot. You won't let me have David Silva.
No, I would probably have Sergio above David Silva, to be honest.
Oh my God!
Let me ask all three of you this, right? I think it's safe to say all four of us probably agree, and a lot of the chat agrees that still one of the best players we've seen is David Silva. Does what you saw with the send off of KDB last night make it even more sad, or it hurt even more that you knew David never got to have that send off with all the fans and the beautiful videos and the tributes and things like that. Like, given the circumstances, the way we were, the way the world was when he left, it was still a good send off, as good as we could make it. But my God, it's just the more and more you see these players that played with him and now on their way off and they're getting these wonderful tributes. You look at it and you're like, got to get this guy his testimonial or something. I know testimonials aren't the thing right now; they don't do them. But my God, we need to somehow find a way to get a testimonial
what's the
for him.
Testimonial part?
That would be the Vinny charity game.
It was the Vinny one, wasn't it? Yeah. But
that was 2019. Yeah.
David Silva's was daytime in a pandemic. Aguero was coming out of the pandemic with 9,000 people in the building.
Yeah.
And that was daytime. KDB's was with a packed house at night. Everything was, and this is like, people will say there'll be an argument when Rodri gets down that road. Should he have all that? There'll be some that will
for
say,
me,
like,
it's pretty simple.
earlier.
For me, it's pretty simple. For me, it goes KDB, Aguero, then David Silva. Now I put Aguero second above David Silva just for the simple thing of, when you look at his stats within the football in Premier League history, Sergio is in a lot of them. And I think Sergio, when he come in and sort of the thing with Pep, with the argument sort of thing when Pep was asking him to do more than what he was doing, Sergio could have gone completely the other way and just gone a different way with that. But he decided to actually take on board and I don't think the relationship between Pep and Sergio was great. I'm not disputing that, but for him to still get his head down and still play for the football club, I think probably massive kudos has to go to Sergio for that, to be honest.
But would you put Rodri? Can you see yourself putting Rodri in that?
They're very different players, aren't they? They're very different. Like I said, them other three players are more attacking side players, aren't they? I suppose, like to Richard's point earlier on, if you're going to have a debate on actual centre backs, then it's sort of a little bit of it's an odd one, isn't it? Because, like I said, people always forget about Vinny, but then on the other side, Vinny's probably had one of, if not the most important sort of things within our history with the Leicester goal. They all have very special moments. But the one thing I would say is the thing with Yaya is that sort of probably people always say about him that season where obviously just went on a madness and did what he did. But I don't actually know as to where you where you rank these players, because obviously we saw last night on the screen, I don't know if it showed you on TV or not, with Zabaleta, and obviously then that's what I mean. You had Zabaleta, then Fernandinho then come on, and then you start thinking these other players. You could just go on and on and on and on, to be honest with you.
That's what I'm saying. There'll be an argument, and trust me, this happened in 12 months. Maybe he'd be still here, Bernardo Silva. But then you'll get others saying, yeah, but him making it public he wanted to leave ruins that legacy. But he's still done 10 years, virtually, or whatever it is.
And he's played most games under Pep.
Do you know what it is, Rich? We've had it too damn good for too damn long, and we're now in a situation where we're having rich man problems.
Yeah,
Excuse the pun, Rich.
I'll be honest. I think Bernardo deserves everything Kev got today. Bernardo's played more games under Pep. Yeah, if Kev gets on, yeah. He's played more games.
So where's Zaba's statue?
Rodri will get statue because
where's Zaba's statue then, Rich? Because Zaba's was just as influential as Bernardo Silva was.
And people could then turn around and say what they won, though.
Yeah, no, but the difference is Bernardo's been that influential for 8 seasons. Zaba had 2 exceptional seasons. Zaba did not have 8 seasons.
Yeah.
Right. No, it's true. It's true. Zaba was brilliant, but he was brilliant. From 13 to 15.
You have to build a museum and make more roads at this rate.
I'll fill the empty seats.
By the way,
they won't give us season tickets.
Genuine question: do you know the all these season tickets we're giving out? Have they all got to go to 10 or more games?
I said that at the top of the show, yeah. I was thinking if Kevin goes to Napoli and that, he's going to be doing a lot of flying back and forth from Italy to Manchester every weekend.
All right, I'm waiting for Elliot to pipe on that. He's going to go.
Oh, no.
There was David last night. I know he's a private man, but it'd have been nice to see David Silva last night on the screen. I know he's a private man. He doesn't do anything in public a lot, but
he's too busy making millions down at his wineries. And
there's no Yaya either, was there?
No. I'm not sure Caldoon's speaking to Yaya.
Well, if Raheem Sterling got on the frigging screen and Thierry Henry.
Is that it?
Yeah, it was good to see Leroy. It was good to see Leroy. Yeah. I'm gonna say though, like emotions were running high when all the players, had their say on the screen and that. But when Sterling came on in that chat, like he said good words. But I looked at it at the same time. I was just like, if you weren't so crap in front of goal, Kev would be knocking on the door of the bloody assist record, like Ryan Giggs's record.
By the way, if Gundo
Jesus the same. If Jesus
if Gunnar didn't have his religious beliefs, maybe he could warrant a statue.
Yeah, Joe Gundo nailed it on the last game exit plan. The first time, in a way, he ruined it by coming back.
Get a statue?
But, well, no, Bernardo started more games for Pep than anyone else.
Grealish gets a bar named after him.
400, yeah. Sabah started, 200 games for City. Bernardo started 400. That when you get over 400,
no, I didn't.
Puts you in a different.
There you go, Rich. Adam Quinn talking sense.
No, we're not doing Chris Wood or Haaland.
We'd have won the FA Cup final with Chris Wood.
You know what, Adam? Seriously, if you ask people that question at the minute, I'd be scared of how many people would choose Chris Wood genuinely.
Is Chris Wood's good against the low block?
No, I mean, that's what I mean, Rich. I've genuinely got a feeling some would actually genuinely choose Chris Wood right now. I know Alan would.
Pat, me, Alan.
Yep.
Yeah, no cake, no
Adam,
show.
Adam Quinn. We're there.
Yeah, so Sterling's in Kev's all-time 11. Grealish statue with a beer in hand. That's harsh.
And a Range Rover, no.
No, six pack and a ghetto blaster.
Yeah, Bernardo.
Impression.
Do you know what? Bernardo should have a street named after him. They should rename Anfield Road Bernardo Avenue. How good would that be?
Bernardo Road.
Liverpool at home at the Bernardo Stadium.
Anyway, no, but we're going to leave it there. Elliot's internet is down and deaf. Pat, anything you want to add before you?
Yeah, just quickly, just wanted to say just big thanks to everybody who sent messages and out too. Yeah, just what was it last Saturday? Just found out that a close friend who had been working in the airline industry with me for over 15 years had passed away from cancer. So that's why I went a bit off camera for a few days there. Just because obviously I have to spend a lot of time with people at work, and when you spend that amount of time with people, they become family more than they become colleagues. So yeah, it's a big miss, a big hole in the community where our family that we have at Qantas and that too. And the funeral's on the 5th of June, and we're looking forward to a nice send off. But it was a bit tough few weeks there with what she was dealing with cancer and that. But we do find solace in knowing that she's at peace now too. So yeah, rest in peace. And yeah, all good. Just on a lighter note too, I did say on Daps' show a few weeks ago, we also had another colleague at Qantas who'd gone into emergency surgery because she fell off the jet bridge at Sydney Domestic Airport. Well, I'm pleased to say she did have good surgery and she's making a good recovery. And weirdly, I found out that she's making a good recovery because she told one of our close friends, who worked alongside her for 15 years, that she was pissed off that they shaved her head when they had to do operation on getting, stopping the blood flow from the head from the brain because of her injury. So she's in good spirits and slowly on the mend. But some positives and obviously some somber things going on at the moment. But big thanks to everybody for the kind words and that. And she'll be back in full swing again, later this week anyway. But yeah, big thanks to everybody. It's always appreciated.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Elliot's doing Dalek impressions again. Rich, anything you want to add? What?
No. No, I think we should. I think we should probably have a show over the summer where we actually talk about. I think there's a debate to be had. Among our great midfielders, I think the media puts Kevin De Bruyne on a massive pedestal above everyone else. But I think if we look at the last 6-7 years of Pep, I think Bernardo and Gundogan have been, every bit as important in different ways. I think it'd be really good to have each of us take a different player and, maybe talk through, which of them are the true legends and why Gundogan and Bernardo don't deserve the same send-off as Kev. Because, I find it very hard to separate the three of them.
So you want to bring back the debate shows, is what you're saying to me? Right?
No, I just think it's an interesting chat, and I think lots of people.
Well, we could do that. We could do defenders. We could do strikers. We can do wingers. I'm sure Elliot would love to jump into the winger chat.
Am I allowed Peter Beagrie?
Oh, Peter Beagrie. A little bit of Peter Beagrie. What an absolute legend.
I used to love about him. He beat the player 7 times, and then
by the way,
then try and beat him the 8th time.
Sorry, we're gonna have to say it, but if we're gonna be talking about midfielders, we definitely have to spend some time and talk about Ali Benarbia.
For one season.
Yep, one season. Yep.
By the way, when we do fullbacks, you can have Danny Tiao, but Colosimo and Van Blurk, you are not having Rich, Pat or Rich, you're not having them.
No, I'm trying to think my favourite. I mean, to be honest,
I will say the shirts, yeah. The one thing I will say, over the summer, because I think we are probably going to take a break next week, it seems, because Rich hasn't sat down and gone through anything because he's a lazy little sod. And I'm going away in 3 days. So what I think we'll do is we'll have a week off.
I'll go do some research.
We'll come back in the first week of June and we'll do a review and all sorts of the season. And then we'll do a bit of Club World Cup stuff as well, transfer stuff, loads of things coming up. But there's a show tomorrow, 9:15, Thursday night chat. And there is also going to be a show on Friday, and we will try and do something Sunday night post-match.
Yeah.
Fulham.
I might miss the Weers one because I was reminded of one of my great football takes, which is even better than your De Bruyne one.
Which one are you missing?
One of my great football. No, I'll miss the wingers. The wingers.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because my mate contacted me. I've got a mate who's from Macclesfield, a big United fan. And he reminded me of the day that I told him and another load of mates at school that Ryan Giggs was never going to be a 10th of the player Michael Hughes was going to be. And how much better Michael Hughes was than Ryan Giggs and how much better he'd be. And he reminded me of that the other day. And it was true. I did judge Michael Hughes to be by far the better potential. So wingers I might have to miss.
Ed, you're more than welcome, mate. We're going to get Ed on a lot more as well. Ed's going to become part of the family the Mancunian way, which is amazing. Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow, 9:15. We've got a special show, Goodbye to Kev. We'll talk Fulham. We'll try and do a squad rebuild with 23 players. Let's see what we can do tomorrow night.
Come on, you Spurs.
Big question is tomorrow night. Will Alan,
both teams lose and Ange gets the trophy?
Will Alan keep or sell Nunes tomorrow night? That's the big question.
I was chatting with Simon this morning, and he is on the point of hoping United win because he thinks it will be so unbearable if Ange wins a trophy.
Oh, he's on that side of things, is he? Bloody hell.
Have you seen where the...
So what if Ange doesn't win a trophy? He wants a European trophy. What, he wants
you
Kevin
seen that,
Muscat
by
to
the
win
way?
one?
ADB statue's meant to be going
Stu
out.
and me set him straight.
No, the North Stand. It's meant to be going out the new stand.
Oh, like in that concourse area.
And I think at the front, yeah, where the hotel is, it's either going to be... This is what the rumours are. It's going to be either next to the hotel or in, you know, where the bar is, somewhere around that area.
Oh, right, okay.
You know, I've heard, Martin, that when they're gonna have a bit of a walkout with the new hotel, and you know how Tottenham,
John Stones looking.
They're gonna, you know what, Tottenham have a cock at the top of their stadium. We're gonna have Johnny Stones.
We're gonna have an Allen.
We're gonna have Johnny Stones looking down on the pitch.
They've already got one.
Like the angel of the north.
Just when you mentioned cock, I thought Alan was going. A picture of Alan's face was going on the top.
Right.
Anyway,
they've already got one in the North Stand, but yeah, carry on.
Listen, we love Alan. He is part of the family. Even though he's bloody doing more bloody appearances everywhere else than he is on his home turf at the minute. Little sod.
All right, they lost our game.
Yeah. He's getting more like Nora Batty with every year.
We've loaned him out for the last few weeks.
Yeah.
He's like that. Can't find his
he keeps getting returned. We think he's on a season-long loan, and we get him back at next week.
We keep loaning him. He keeps coming back. No, we love him. It's one of them. But no, thank you, gentlemen. I know it's very late for you. It's really weird, this. It's normally the other way around. I'm normally going to bed at midnight and 1 in the morning. It's great. But yes, by the way, I will say, when I'm away, I am away. There'll be no spaces, no shows. I am away. I promise my family and my other half I will not be on any shows, and I'm sticking to it. I'm having a well-earned rest for 1 week in my Speedo. There you go. I might send stuff to the group chat just to wind them up.
Yeah, you and your Speedos will wind me up.
LB's just sent the raid over when we've just finished.
Yeah, and they just clicked into you talking about you and your Speedos.
Yeah, we are going now. Sorry, LB.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. We'll be back tomorrow at 9:15. When you just went, yeah. Listen, I do apologise. You'll have to watch it back. LB decides to go live at the same time as we go live now. She's crazy. No, I'm joking. No, big up LB Raiders. You are lads. Please watch it back. I do apologise. We've been going for nearly 2 hours, and it's 1 in the morning. Martin, 10 more minutes. They want 10 more minutes. Should we give them 10 more minutes?
Right. We'll give them 10 more.
Yeah, I'll go. You two go.
You go, right. We'll give you 10 more minutes because you're all coming. I'll be your Rich. Right, Rich is gone. What do you want to talk about, Pat? I'll give it to you.
I don't know.
We've just gone 300 people. Oh, breaking news. What's breaking news?
There we go. Timed it well.
What's the breaking news? What breaking news?
City Extra. Go on, fire it up. You know I haven't got X.
I am doing it. It's just having a moment. Right, okay then. I will just share my screen and then you can all look. There you go. Breaking news. Kevin De Bruyne has ruled out joining another Premier League club following his Manchester City exit, and he will sign for a foreign club next season. There you go. So KDB is not staying in England. It's probably going to be Napoli or Chicago Fire, looks like. What I want to say is wish him all the best. Him and his family, his 3 lovely children, his very, very lovely wife, lovely family. I hope they have a great, great success wherever they go.
Napoli, he doesn't want to leave the sky blue.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Mind you, though, fair play, because Napoli, they'll treat him like royalty over there.
Yeah. I did share earlier on, there was a G&A Q&A over on the Daily Mail with Nottingham Forest's version of Jack Gaughan, that it looks like Nottingham Forest do expect him to leave. And it looks like there's a bit of tension behind the scenes between Nuno and Gibbs White. And it looks like we'll get him for around 70 million. But even the Forest people are now expecting him to join up at Sitter.
Okay.
So we'll see. Sporting Dimension Charities. Alec, I'm totally with you, mate. And if you want to reach out, we can do something together, mate. And we can put something together between me and you, mate. Yeah, we'll sort that out. Patrick, True City Man, I need to have a chat with as well at some point. Napoli, here we go. I do think it'll be Napoli, don't you?
It just makes sense. I think there's still enough in the tank to do something good in a very respectable league in Europe. Maybe MLS is if we can find a little bit of that form and the injuries can sort of stay away, then maybe he can get some more longevity. But I think he's good enough to play in Europe somewhere for at least a couple more years, and then MLS. I mean, God, MLS. He could be injured half a season, and it could still be his playground. So, yeah, the guy's got longevity, and I think I can still see a bit of legs in his career.
Yeah, I get it. Mitch, thank you for the very kind $2.99, mate. You're very, very kind, sir. Big up, mine, and thank God for KDB. Yeah, I cried like a baby last night. I cried, and I cried, and I cried. I had a lump in my throat. I cried. Like I said, I cried 4 times. Oh, he's back now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Connection good now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. Apologies, I didn't want to just start talking because I heard Pat obviously speaking about what he was on about.
Neither do I, mate. It's all right.
Yeah, I didn't want to cut you off, mate. So sorry for your loss, by the way.
No, you're right, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks.
I want to ask you about your on. Where you at with this Gibbs White? Because obviously now the Forest people. There was a rumour last night. Forest were confident he's going to sign a new one.
I think it's done, innit? I think it's done. I think there's too much noise, isn't there? I think it normally dies down a little bit, doesn't it, on certain players? But I feel like this has been pretty consistent with the rumours coming out. Be interesting to see where he plays. Let's say with this new formation, depends. I'd be surprised if he sort of plays as a 10 because I don't understand where this sort of a players will play. But then on the other hand, with Rodri playing with Nico G last night, is that going to be something what we look towards in the future? Could that be something?
That seems to be like a partnership that's going to be well anticipated, I think.
Yeah, I thought the same part, especially with them both being Spanish as well, and I know Pep's always call Nico like the mini Rodri kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is pretty interesting. I think the Reinders deal might be a good move as well, to be honest. Especially if this new system is going to stay, because I think he can.
And he can get Foden going again.
Yeah, that's the other side of it. I think that's a lot of the thing with Gibbs White, to be honest with you, Martin. It seems like they probably want to maybe. I don't know. Can anyone remember when Kane went to Bayern and then Eric Dyer went over and people were laughing about it and just having a bit of a. I don't know, and I think sometimes you do sort of need that person. Yeah.
So you're saying maybe Phil will find some form again because he'll have his mate Morgan.
I think it'll help, won't it? I think it might help, Pat. Yeah, I think it might help. I think obviously, I think they'd not. I've heard. Is it more family that they're pretty close with? I think is his god.
Phil? Yeah, Phil. Yeah. I think is godfather to his son. Something like that. So it's either that or the other way around. I can't remember which order it was. But they're very, very close. I mean, I think they both won the under 17 World Cup together.
Yeah.
So when you think of that, what Rodri's put there, Reinders, Gibbs White, Foden, and Rodri with an Echeverri coming off the bench,
and Oscar Bob,
and Nico G is a scary.
I mean, you've got options in terms of squad depth too, but also you've got a combination of players ready to go right now and players that are only going to get better as the time goes on.
Well, I've got a question for you. Yeah, does the Verts not? So the Verts not agreeing obviously to sign or whatever, or City pulling away, which I think we all know what that probably means. Does that mean we're going to spend that money in the other areas a bit more? So was there more like a bit? I don't know.
I think so. I think it'll be, and I think it'll be utilised similar to the way of like the money that we were going to use on Kane was basically, well, we couldn't get the striker we wanted, so we just sort of moved our priority somewhere else, and we just decided to create a different dynamic in the false nine by bringing Jack Grealish in. So I think now we'll look at it and we'll go, well, that money that was meant to be used for Verts for the transfer fee plus his wages, then we can look at why bother trying to find an out-and-out number 10 that's going to be hopefully here for 10 years, and we can go and create a midfield with so much depth and versatility and create a completely different dynamic. So we're looking about going about things, the right way. We're just changing. We're just sort of changing the direction in which we're going.
Yeah, I agree with that, Pat. I agree with that. I said the Kirkes thing is a bit of a weird one, because I think if you get a Kirkes and then the Wesley thing, which seems like it's almost pretty done, they seem a little bit too attacking for me to not. How do I word this?
Kirkes screams Liverpool for me, mate. Just the way he played yesterday.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. But I'm more thinking if that's so that's obviously from like, I think it was like a pretty, quote me if I'm wrong, like, and was that not like a pretty like reliable journalist who reported that about City looking at him as well? So if they're looking towards that, I'm not saying Kirkes is a player by the way, Pat, but I'm saying if that's the sort of person they're looking for, and then a Wesley at right back, are they going to maybe, like say, come away from the winger thing, and probably go for in midfield as like a little bit of a diamond? I think that has worked pretty well, to be honest. I do think the diamond has. I think the diamond has probably
past its success, to be honest. We don't suit direct wingers, and that's not a knock at Doku. That is not a knock at Savio. That is not a knock at Grealish. We don't suit direct wingers. Well, I saw, because last night people are not going to like it. I honestly think, this is my opinion, we have looked more balanced than we've looked in a while.
Yeah,
that's my opinion. Now, where's
which is weird which is weird as well, Martin. That's with the old players as well. So you imagine what like a Reinders in there, or like a Nico G from the start, and like a Rodri. So I said you had like a Bernardo in there, but you had like a Rodri and a Reinders next to him. I think that'll probably take a little bit more off of Bernardo as well, to be honest, in a way. I'm in the majority, and I'm probably going to get a bit sticky, but I do think Bernardo still does have something to offer.
I don't think Bernardo leaves this summer.
I think his availability has been his worst, his biggest downfall for me, Bernardo's this season, because I think he's played that many games because he's been available. I mean, I can't remember many. Has actually missed any. I don't know if he's actually got injured this season, has he? If he has, I can't really remember, but that seems to be a running thing with Bernardo anyway, to be honest. So touch wood that stays the same.
Here's a question. Rodrigo this summer or Musiala next? I don't think either come personally, but
I'll go Musiala at the minute in time.
Yeah,
Musiala.
This minute in time with the formation what we're playing. If you asked me that probably 3 seasons ago, I would have probably said Rodrigo, but
I think Rodrigo's going to leave. It looks like they're going all in on Nico Williams, which is baffling a little bit because I think Rodrigo's
So Madrid, it's confirmed they've got Huijsen, which I know it's a small sample size, but from what we saw yesterday, it was sort of he showed glimpses of being a quality defender, but then also was a bit inconsistent as well.
Yeah.
There's also talk that they're getting that guy, the fullback from Benfica, Carreras, I think his name is. So they'll have Trent on the right and they'll have this Carreras on the left. So I don't really know too much about him either, but that's the plan. I think what their main priority is at the moment is they want to do a massive defensive reshuffle or defensive rebuild. And I think financially, I don't really know to what strength Real Madrid are in terms of how much they can spend this season, but I know you'd have to think for a fact that signing on bonus that they gave to Mbappe, that's going to be a huge chunk in terms of their wages. That's something that they're still going to be feeling for a few years on. But if they were to sell Rodrigo and get €100 million or something for him, that goes a long way in terms of bolstering their ranks in terms of what they do defensively.
Pat, could I ask you a question? I've asked it Martin. I've asked it a few other people on on the spaces and stuff as well. So obviously I'm not saying pick one, but which winger do you think suits this system? What we're currently playing the most?
It's weird you say that. I was actually about to bring that topic up. I think it's Savio.
Right.
And the reason why I say that is because I think it also, and I'm not saying that because I think like for like he's quite similar to Riyad Mahrez, but I think what was important with Riyad Mahrez was that he had just offered a little bit more of a dynamic in terms of how he attacked because he was able to expand the pitch a bit more.
Yeah,
and he also played a relative,
pretty techy, yeah, and I get
pretty
that,
techy.
yeah.
Expand the pitch.
I get that.
He was more known for cutting inside, but he can beat defenders out to the byline if he wants to. But what Savio can do is that he can do both, but he can also do it on the left and the right. And I think from what we've seen in small sample sizes, we were dying to see Savio play on the left a bit more, and that's something that's sort of been missing from that sort of player, that sort of dynamic of player that's been missing at this club for a very, very long time. Doku, while yes, he's explosive and things like that, and he creates a different dynamic in terms of tempo. The problem is the rest of the squad aren't ready to play at his tempo. Basically, the amount of times you would just watch and be like, "Okay, he's explosive, bang, he's amazing," but where's the rest of the players? They're still 5 minutes behind him, sort of thing. It's very, very good as like a super sub when you want to sort of kill the game off. It's perfect, but I don't want to be forking out 65 million euro for a player that's just going to be a super sub most of the season. So I don't really
tell you about this 1 year extension on Ederson, by the way.
Oh no, I've not seen anything. I've not seen anything. What's it about? What staying at City?
I've not heard anything, so I don't know. That's why I'm asking. I don't know. I don't know if it's Craig or Craig and audio in the chat whether you've heard anything. I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
Is that the right to play devil's advocate on that? Is that the right decision if he's already turned 3-4 down?
If you're signing a 1 year extension, that's telling me you're doing it to sell him next summer and not lose him on a free.
That seems to me like you're trying to sign Ederson down to another deal because you want to do other deals more instead, and you want to keep Ederson, which I get. I do get that. I understand Ederson is a big part of our play, but for me, that's almost like you're sort of just like knocking that to the side till next summer. But then you're going to do this again next summer.
You're buying yourself time, is what you're doing.
Yeah, is there a possibility that we're extending Ederson for another season because we're not happy with the prices that Porto keep offering us for Costa? So it's like, why do it now? We can wait another season. We might be able to get him for 10, 15 million or 20 million euro cheaper. Kind of similar to like maybe what Bayern's trying to play with Wirtz at the moment, where it's like, well, if we don't get him this summer, well, because they want 150 million, let's wait 12 more months pre-contract, then we will pay the 100 million.
Yeah, Craig said it was a new seller. I said that's fine. I just feel as though he's kicking the can down the road to buy time. I think that's what we're doing. We're buying time. And it does worry me because I don't think Ederson's head is still not fully at the club. That bothers me. I have an issue with that slightly, but I guess we'll see. I don't know, because the thing is, people are about Rodrigo. Alonso will want to speak to Rodrigo, I'm guessing, or Rodrigo will want to speak. So I'm sure there'll be a combo going to happen there. If Ederson signs another year, does that mean then he's out of contract 2027? Does he go out the same time as Pep? I don't know. This is, if you think about it, you get a headache. I think the fullbacks, obviously, are Wesley they're looking at, ain't Nora. I've been told the Cambiasso thing is getting more distant. Who was the other one? Tio Hernandez was another one they looked at.
What was that other fullback from Juventus as well? The one that kind of came out of nowhere as well. Who was that one?
Which one?
There was another fullback at Juventus that we're interested as well too. Nickel or something.
Saraka. I can't remember the name. Costa made a video yesterday that he's staying at Porto. Right, there you go then.
Yeah.
I that's where I'm at. I think that's risky as hell.
Yeah, I think this goalkeeping sort of situation at the moment is something that's going to drag out for quite a lot in the for the summer. I don't want it to. I'd rather be all sorted. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. It's a weird one, that isn't it? Yeah. Question for you two. What would be sort of like
Savannah. Thank you.
Savannah? Yeah, that's it. What would be like a good, if you wanted to see like the club make a little bit of a statement, maybe, would you, before we head off to the States, would you like to see the club at least make one or two signings, or you're not really too worried as long as it's all done, by the end of the transfer deadline?
I think we might get some signings in beforehand, Pat. I think we might get some signings before the Club World Cup. I don't know.
I'd be happy with one. I'd be elated if we got two. Yeah,
I mean, maybe gives White and Reinders, or the Wesley.
If there were two that were going to happen, I think they would be the first two that would. The Reinders and Gibbs White.
Well, the Wesley deal seems to have legs, doesn't it? A little bit.
Yeah. It's a weird one too, because you got to remember Flamengo are going to the States as well. They're in the Club World Cup.
Jesus, you seen this? Pedro at Brighton. Been told looks like he's going to leave Brighton. 70 million euros they want. Jesus, some of the prices Brighton asked for.
70 million. Usually they'd be asking 120 for him, because he bags most of their goals.
That's my point. He's going to Brighton and spend 70 million. Jesus.
Yeah, I'm not a big just back to it again. Like I said, I don't want to go back onto it, but I'm not a big fan of the Ederson deal, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not, and that's not against Ederson.
No. I'd rather him sign a 2-year deal, or you know what I mean, and then leave after next season.
Yeah, you kick the can down the road. I don't like kicking the can down the road, and I know that's. Yeah, it's just not.
I know we've done that before for certain players, but they've been under much different circumstances. Like we did that for a couple of years with Fernandinho, but that was because Fernandinho was getting well into past his mid-30s. So not with Ederson. I mean, he's 31. Like really, if he's most top goalkeepers, you're not really in your prime until you hit your mid-30s anyway. So, it's disappointing. I mean, it's a shame that we've come to the point where Ederson, where it's either no contract or he has to commit to 5 years or something. Basically. And I think we can all agree that he's not exactly the best shot stopper in the world, but for what he does, nobody else in world football does. So that's why we want him for another 5 years. If he's not going to extend, then you might as well say, well, Pep's going to be on the way out as well too, because that's how important he is to how we play.
By the way, the year of the bird could continue, obviously with Tottenham, with the Liver Bird tonight, and Oldham Athletic, by the way, local to obviously Centre, the Owls have got to Wembley for the first time in 35 years.
Wow.
After beating York away. You remember them days, York away, don't we?
I wonder, just because I said this something, I wonder if they're looking at the Trafford situation with this. I wonder if they thinking Trafford's going to stay at Burnley. And then if Burnley go down, then Ederson has a year left. Could that be it? Could that be a thing? Because obviously the likelihood of Burnley going down is pretty high, isn't it, really? And obviously I know they're saying that he has been better in the Championship. So a City then thinking, I don't know, it's just a maybe. Maybe I'm just putting two and two together.
No, it's a decent shout, because I think when we get to, say, August, now we start doing our predictions for next season, I think a lot of us would probably say, unless Burnley do a madness in the summer, they're probably going to be our shout to go down, because they don't spend a lot, and usually if they're going to stay up, they're kind of relying on lightning in a bottle. Combination of their players that got them up in the Championship, been able to take that step up in the Premier League. But then if they don't, then they're usually the first ones to fall. So it's I think it's another scenario where we don't want to be relying on that sort of thing, and then, as you said, Martin, just kicking the can down the road. So.
Yeah, I just think, like I say, with the English quarter as well, Pat, could that be something what the club look at that time, because obviously, if like say, if you're going to get Stones, if he's going to go, could that be, like you said, could that be something what the club look to maybe look at in the future? I don't
know, Elliot. We're going to go back to Stones briefly here. I wonder if Stones, I'm really do hoping that he can come back and have a really good, solid season. Minimal injuries, and he can play good, consistent football again. But I'm hoping that if he can do that, maybe he might be able to put himself in a position where he can do something similar to those 1-year extensions every single year, because he's got the quota on his side. He'd be in a position where he probably won't be able to negotiate the same wages he was at City, but at the same time he may not be able to get the same wages if he goes to another club. So I think he's got the benefit of being the English quota as well too, given that it is a little bit sort of skint at the moment, the amount of English players we have. So if he extends every year, then it's one extra English player on the book that we don't have to worry about trying to replace. So, but again, I'm putting that all down to that, as if he has a good return next season and has minimal injuries, then I would say there's a decent argument there for him to just continue extending, whether it's 1 season or even 2, something like that. I'm kind of okay with that.
Big up, everybody. Big up.
Ed, what's going on, mate?
Been working, man. Been working. It's early over here. But no, I was just listening in. I think if we are going to extend Ederson, then you have to let Ortega go. Big up the chat. Big up everybody on the panel, by the way. You have to let Ortega go and then bring in his successor, if that's what you're going to do. I can understand that. If you're going to keep Ederson for a year, maybe bring in a Garcia or somebody and be like, hey, a year you're going to be our next guy. But that's we have to see if that's doable. With Stones, my only issue with Stones is I could have understood that if they didn't bring in as many young defenders as we did. When you have a Kusanov there, when you have a Hayes there, when you have a Juma Ba there, and potentially others.
Forgot all about Juma Ba.
Can you keep on extending Stones, taking up a spot essentially in that back line, So that's my concern with that one.
I get what you're saying, but again, it's while the quota is low, but also too at the same time, a healthy John Stones offers a dynamic that no other centre back can do. So until he sort of loses that from his game, then I'm kind of okay with him sort of staying around the club a little bit.
Pat, can you run it for 5 while I was covering with them?
Yeah, sure, mate. Yeah, no worries at all. So yeah, I don't know. It's a very tricky sort of situation that we're in, because I think there are players now that sort of in the squad that sort of make us realize that we've got to look beyond just this summer. And I think Kevin going out the door now this summer has sort of opened our eyes a little bit more to what's going to happen in 26 and maybe even 27 as well too. So I don't know. It's very, very tricky, a very tricky situation at the moment. I mean, but then again, let's be honest and look at it the same way. Like when we were in the summer of 2017, we were looking at the same thing as well too, because we knew that there was a lot of players in that squad that was sort of past their, lack of a better word, past their expiration date. So we're always going to come in with this sort of uncertainty as to how good the players were. But I've always believed, and I've always had the confidence in knowing that when we've had a down season, how good we've been able to rebound. And you got to think about it. How well did we rebound in 2017 after the summer of that spending? How well did we rebound in 2020 before we had that season coming out of COVID? So I know people have reason to be skeptical about it. They're all probably worried about other teams improving in the league as well too. But we've been there before, and there should be a lot of confidence in what we do and whatever moves we make. I think it's going to be the right choice anyway.
The thing with Stones is before Dash comes in. Big up Ed and Dash, by the way. The thing with Stones is, would he fit the new system if you're not going to maybe push centre backs into midfield? Because if you want to play with wing backs, naturally, your wing backs should be pretty high, so that you're going to then have 2 at the back. Would you rather have, and this is a decent question, would you rather have Nathan Ake as a 2 at the back, or would you rather have Stones in a 2 at the back? I would say Nathan Ake is probably a better defender than Stones, but I would say Stones is better on the ball. So
Yeah.
could you use Stones in the sort of game where, like on Saturday, where we just had to break down the low block? Do you know what I mean? Is that the games where
No,
Stones
and
is
I get what
better
you're
in?
saying, because I mean, with for example, like with O'Reilly and Nunes this season, he's already doing that with them on the left and right hand sides. They're inverting anyway. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe put in perspective where it's like, I don't know to what point does John Stones have the longevity to do that anymore? I'm really not too sure. But actually, you brought up something interesting there I wanted to talk about too, because I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this is something that is the reason why the club brought in Victor Hayes when they did. People were talking about, we just went and got him because they were worried about other clubs picking him up. But from what people say, that they're saying this guy does have a certain, the style in which he plays is quite similar to John Stones as well too. He's very, very fluent on the ball. Doesn't necessarily give the ball away as well too. He's just like, his ball playing skills are really exceptional, basically. And there was some talks going through over the last couple of months as well too, that there's even talks about him trying to be moved into almost like a 6 role, or even like the double pivot sort of role as well too. So you wonder if maybe, again, another reason, not just because we decided to get him because Real Madrid and other teams are sort of sniffing around, but I wonder if maybe he's been looked at the possibility of being that player that's going to be molded into that John Stone sort of player. Starts as a centre back, can drift into all the spaces around midfield and that too, and offer that extra support as well. So I'm curious to see what the plan is there. I mean, certainly they've kept Victor Hayes very, very quiet over, since he came in January as well too. So you wonder if maybe there is some serious sort of long-term plans for what they want to do with him as well. So again, another reason where it's very quick to look in transfer markets and things like that when we realize just what actually we have in house already. So I'm not sure. I don't know. These are fantastic. These are fascinating questions, and I always enjoy engaging with everybody about them too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting conversation because let's look at this squad, this formation in particular, and let's correlate to next season. The midfielder that we're going to go sign, for example, Ryan Gibbs White, etc. Yeah, and the defenders that we are picking up upon, yeah. John Stones is more of a reducer type of defender that goes into midfield. So if we got Mick Gibbs White, Rodri, Reinders, Nico G, along with maybe some of the wide players that invert into 8 or 10 positions, such as, I don't know, the Silvas if he does stay, or maybe if we go get Rodrigo, for example. Do we need another centre back inverted into midfield, or reduce the role in that aspect? Because this system that we've been doing in the past 11 games, it's very PMP. It's high line. Pep is not going to change that. He hasn't changed that for the past 7-8 years. So is a Gavardio, is a Kusanov more suited towards that? I know people might say Gavardio is a bit more quality, a bit more niche because he's got the ball playing abilities, but he's very physical too. But at the same time, you need that PMP more when the technical ability in that defense. Because the main thing we've been so on about this season is PMP. And I feel it's in a space where you've got to find a balance between PMP and technical ability overall on the sides. Now, I don't have the answer for this. No one has. That's a board to answer that question. But we can't have too much technicians or have too much PMP. It's got to be a balance of both. Because, listen, I don't like Arsenal as the manager of the club, everything they stand for, but they got some principles about right. It's about quality for them. Same with Liverpool, same with PSG, Barcelona, Inter Milan. Hell, even the teams like, what's it called, Wolves or Brighton, they've got that, but we don't. That's why for me, yeah, this window, I want to see a balance of both. I don't want to always see technicians in the squads. I do need a PMP player or two. That's why for me, although I didn't like the idea of Gibbs White at first, it grew upon me. Because, yes, he can run around, but he's got intelligence too. So it fits both a Pep point of view and a modern day point of view, if that makes sense. Because Pep is not going to change his whole philosophy up. But what he will do is change variations. Remember back in 17-18, and we played with our high line. It was liquid football, yeah. But how to say the same functions were there, but The difference is we got fucking elite players. We got David Silva, Fernandinho, Gundogan,
We played
KDB,
with
Leroy Sané.
didn't we? We were ruthless in attack.
But this is the thing that we had the players to be ruthless. With this system, we can't be ruthless because we don't have the right quality.
We're toothless.
So in order to, exactly. So in order to get that ruthlessness back, you gotta get an array of niche players that can do it. Now, will it be the same as 17, 18? No way, because the way team playing us now is different towards back then. Teams back then, trying to have a go at us. Nowadays, park the bus, you'll win against City or get a draw. So I do understand why people are saying that, don't get Gibbs right because it's a low block. But when we had a lot of overloads, and we saw it against Bournemouth, Southampton, hell, even against Palace, when we had the overloads against us, which midfielders were there to pick up, against other Palace players or Southampton players, and regain the ball back through second balls, different touch, etc.
To add to your point, though, I know people don't open up against us or play a high line, but we do have moments in games where we can break on people. We do have moments in games where, if we had somebody that could make that pass through to Haaland or through to a Marmoush, it is on. But currently, we just don't have those profile players that could drive the ball or make those passes right now.
Yeah, it's about naturalness, Ed, isn't it? It's about muscle memory because certain players have certain, repetitions of play that allow that to happen. Sane had that, you know what I mean? Sterling had that. Was just Sterling a cup of tea? For some people, probably not. But what he did have is intelligence and technique. And that's why with Doku, and that's why I've banged the drum on him a long time, he's got all the PMP possible, but he does not have the technique. Now, you might say different circumstances such as injuries, the squad not suiting towards him, may have lowered the performance. But the essentials weren't there. And I think this summer's about getting the essentials. So it is going to be difficult because the medicals are being prepped for next week after the Premier League season's done. They're being prepped, There are players coming in, like Elliot said before. So I think right now we just gotta wait because I think the idea of throwing words here, I think it's demotivate the fan base. Whether people don't like it or not, it actually has demotivated them in that aspect because they're so fixated on De Bruyne replacement and all that. Whereas we got the in-house solutions. Like I was talking about Echeverry for crying out loud last night. He's talking about contemplations about starting him or probably not starting in certain games. It just shows that he had a big impact on Pep. Because it wasn't like Bruyne, who just came to the club, done a little interview, and then just fucked off after that. So it really depends. Oscar Bob is another one, Phil Foden's another one. If we were to buy a number 10, I want it to be for the right reasons, to be fair to you. Don't buy it just because of a knee-jerk reaction. Because people are saying Xavi Simons is the one they want next afterwards. But does Xavi Simons make sense?
I think it makes more sense than
I
think it, Dash.
Yeah. Well, really, do you think people are just picking? Do you think people are just picking number 10s for the sake of it because we sort of gloss over what we already have in house? I mean, why can't we look at possibly using having a rotation of number 10s of like your Echeverrys and Phil Foden and even Oscar Bob in a way. Marmoush could play there as well too. So I don't understand why the problem is we can't look at in house and you're getting onto what you said. Look, Gibbs White was growing on me as well too, and if you're talking about the godfather of one of Phil Foden's children or whatever it was being one of his teammates that they played in England since they were in the mid-teens, that for me is gives me a lot of positivity and wanting to see let's see how these two play together and we might see Phil get back to what he was 2 seasons ago basically.
Yeah.
I think midfield's more important than wingers at the minute. That is one thing what I would say.
It's just not the way we do things. I don't know if Pep's really ever been known for having proper out and out wingers, or at least not for a long time.
I'll be honest with you, Pat. He doesn't like direct wingers. The only direct wingers he's probably ever liked is Sane and Sterling because they had more technical ability than he probably imagined. That's the only reason why.
When he was at Bayern, he had maybe Ribery, Kingsley Coman sort of thing, but they They were more. They played more. They played more centrally than they did trying to expand the pitch basically.
And like I said, he wants to play with insider wingers. Well, more like midfielders going to 10s. That's what he wants.
Yeah, I feel like with the system, if this is the system we're going to play, our midfield and fullbacks are extremely important.
Yeah.
Extremely important. And that's why with Wesley, if he's our number one option, you're going to have to bang, man. You're going to have to come in and hit the ground, man. This is not I know we give all the players that we come in time, but when the target is challenging for a league, and you're the number one guy at that right back position. And let's be honest, we don't even know who the backup right back is at this point in time. You're going to have to be a guy that can play a lot of games for us and be at a certain level for us.
Martin, could you just go back to that comment, what you had on before, please?
Which one?
The one, I think it was the one before, the one you're on now. Wait, toxin.
Oh, yeah. I know the one you mean about.
Just go back to it about the... Rodrigo.
Rodrigo.
Yeah,
Rodrigo's available.
Yeah. So the problem with this though is Arsenal are playing with wingers. We're actually not at the minute. So what I would say is you're better off using the Rodrigo money for an actual, what we were saying earlier, Pat, an actual out and out attacking wing back who could, or you're better signing 2-3 wing backs instead of a winger. Well,
so you're not surprised that Elliot we didn't? Now we may have done. We didn't push stronger for Frimpong.
Possibly, but then I suppose when was the deal? When was the deal made though with Liverpool?
That's thinking. Frimpong might have said it's Liverpool, nobody else.
Yeah, they're working on that for 6 months.
It is interesting. It is an interesting one.
You know, when we're talking about overlapping fullbacks, you had one there in Frimpong.
Overlapping
and then
fullbacks.
it comes down to the discussion we have over do we want our wing backs to overlap or do we want them to invert? Or do we want versatile ones who know how to do both?
Do you want both?
It's at the minute, Pat, isn't it? I think it's overlapping at the minute, but whether that changes, I don't know. But I see Nunes and Guardiola or O'Reilly or whoever it is more overlapping than actual inverting at the minute. Now, so that might change, but
see, this is my point. Listen, I hear Toxin's point, and I get it, and I think that's down to a individual's preference of playing style. Some people like. One thing I said this last night. I think the game of direct wingers is coming away slowly a little bit. I think you look a lot of the top teams are coming away from fast. These wingers, they're coming into more. This fullback thing starting to take a world of its own. And so that's why I've said I do fit. I think Savio's
he took the words out of the mouth. He took the words out of the mouth, Martin.
Savio's in year one, so I think he's safer than I think Doku. If I'm Doku and I'm only being given 20, 30 minutes, I'm asking a question at that point.
You know the answer, Martin. Come on.
I know the answer, and I don't think you want my honest opinion. Do I see Doku as a long-term Manchester City player? No, I don't. And that's not because I hate him or I don't like him or anything. It's because of the way we play. While Pep is here, I don't see him here.
Yep. But Savio, what he offers a lot more to what the squad's going to do.
Well, I asked you a question earlier on, Pat, about who do you see more as in you said Savino. Now, I actually would have gone Oscar Bob because I've seen Oscar Bob as an actual 10th of the academy.
Oh, yeah.
But
between just those two, Doku and Savio, I'd say Savio. But yeah, Oscar Bob for me, I just think Oscar Bob is more ready-made than Savio in terms of playing under Pep right now.
I agree.
As I said, one of the biggest what-ifs this season wasn't necessarily if Rodri had played a full season. I think for me it would have been if Oscar Bob had been able to play more.
Well, the only way you could work this out with the wingers, and I might be trying to stick up for Doku and Savio and these kind of wingers here, right, is could you not play a full-back and play them instead if you're going to play the high sort of full-back and then maybe drop a... So say like you've got Nico G and Rodri, could not one of them maybe drop into the 3 at the back instead of obviously then making so like Doku could actually play for. I'm not saying he's going a bad way, but I'm just saying if he played for like a Nunes or a Guardiola, and then actually he was the actual winger where they're actually playing anyway, and then you've only actually got 3 centre backs, but you haven't because you can drop a Nico G back or a Rodri. Could you maybe look at something like? I'm just trying to get a Doku or a Savino in at this minute.
I mean, it is possible, but I mean, it comes down to which one would be more defensively sound if you did that. Now,
yeah,
I think it would be. I think it would be Nico G because as we've seen in the last few seasons. Rodri's basically gone from just an out and out number 6 to now being playing like a way more advanced 6, like almost into a number 8, 6 and 8 sort of role. So, you make a good point there about who it could be, but I think whichever Nico G or Rodri are utilising that, I'm again coming back to what we said before. It's a partnership that I'm really, really looking forward to seeing next season.
Almost like right wingers, right? Almost like right wingers, like left wingers, I suppose, in a way at the minute, because they're playing that high that it's almost like they're not actual fullbacks. So, yeah, I don't know. Like I say, whether it goes with this, I don't know, but it's almost like a two at the back in it at the minute with the centre halves.
Well, Iron Man says we show will continue, maybe Pep Chair, maybe he will. I'm only saying because if you look at the profile of player that we are targeting or we're being linked with, it doesn't show a change of system. It may tweak it, doesn't show a massive change into the system.
It might be it's more like an enhancement of this system.
Yeah, it may be a tweak to the system, like you said, enhancement.
Can answer this question, Martin?
Yeah, come.
Does the Southampton and Palace not make this decision easier?
You mean when he actually went with direct wingers?
Yeah. Does this not play a point?
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's why I think with all like the Rodrigo news, and I said this in the space last night. Do you need a Rodrigo when you have Marmoush?
I think Marmoush played close to Haaland did, to be honest.
Well, here's this question here from its belly. Where do you think Marmoush's best position is? Tell you where it is.
Behind Haaland.
Free roll.
Central behind Haaland.
Free roll behind Haaland. Don't give. Do you know what I think we're doing at the minute? We talked about this coming up. We're getting very fixated on numbers. He's a 10, he's an 8, he's a 6, he's a 7, he's a this, he's a that. KDB floated all over the gaff last night. I wouldn't say KDB was a 10 last night.
Yeah. No, I was just comparing the two because if you are playing with wingbacks, Rodrigo and Marmoush would take up the same spaces. If the winger is coming inside, so that's why I'm saying.
As I got told a long time ago, and it was a very wise man who told me this. One change in a system can have a domino effect down the other change in the team. So who you play on the wing will have a domino effect. Who you play at wing back or you play at full back. Yeah. Who you play as your centre back pairing will have a bearing on who you play at full back pairings. And this is the problem. People look at it, playing, because he's the best. And do they cohesively work together? That's the question.
This is why I like that. This is why I like that Norwich shout. This is why I like that Norwich shout, to be honest, with the system. I think he suits this system pretty well.
Ready-made for the Premier League too.
Yeah, he's got good energy on him as well, Pat. Yeah. He is very good, and like you said, I don't know about much about this Wesley, but whether to me seems like he's pretty attacking. Now, if he's attacking and you're getting at Nori, then I think that's probably going to answer your questions.
Yeah.
But this is why I was saying in the chat about Kim Biaso. The only concern I have about him is his pace and the recovery speed. And when you're talking about the Premier League, you kind of need those things. And I feel like Nori is quicker than him in that aspect.
Yeah. Because Cambiasso, you can get away with a lack of pace in Italy.
I remember watching Cafu. Paul was.
Oh, he was unbelievable.
That and Roberto Carlos, and that was the Brazilian.
That 0-2 World Cup in Korea, Japan was
that
unbelievable.
Brazilian team knew how to play fullbacks and wingbacks. The day invented it.
Jogo,
when I was younger, I saw
yeah.
there may have been teams older that invented it beforehand. But that Brazilian team, when you had Roberto Carlos and Cafu, it was Danny Alves. It was summer.
Yeah. They're called Jogo Bonito back in the day. Martin, even that 98 Brazilian squad, I know they had a bad day against France in that final night, but back then they were unbelievable too.
I always remember there was a tournament called La Toa, something like that. Roberto Carlos scored a free kick that was just like...
Are you talking about the one that curled around the wall?
It curled around the wall.
Oh, it's unreal.
Around the world and came back in the goal. It went out 40 yards and come back in. I don't know. That guy had somebody. My God. Yeah. Just, wow, what a player.
And Darsh, can you tell us who Nori just signed with? His new agency? If Darsh is still there?
I am right on Ori, yeah?
CAA.
CAA Stella.
Is that the same one Jack Grealish is with?
Yeah.
No, I don't
Get right.
No, I don't think we do. I don't think we do. We need a centre back for Bernardo.
I think we sorted the centre back.
This is something I wanted to get to, Paul. And Paul Fraser makes something interesting there, and I've said this a few weeks back too. We're talking about possibly the centre backs that may be leaving, and of those, obviously the big three we talk about is Stones, Akanji, and Ake. Now, if we're talking hypotheticals, and let's say for some reason all three decided to leave, good money for them, or they wanted to leave or something like that, are we looking at possibly the situation right now is one, we'd lose a huge amount of our depth at defence as well too, but also if you're looking at what we currently have in defence and what we're going to have in the future, do you think that the gap at the moment between what the ready-made product in terms of Diaz and Gvardiol is way too far ahead of what the next two are, being Vitor Hayes and Kuzanov? So I look at it and it's like, well, if we're going to let those players go, then we certainly have to look at least keeping one, maybe two of them, because not just we need the depth at centre back as well too, but I think the gap between those two players in terms of Diaz and Gvardiol in terms of being ready-made is way too far ahead of what Kuzanov and Vitor Hayes are ready to do in terms of starting you for you regularly in Premier League matches or Champions League matches as well too. So do we go with that where we want to keep at least one or two of those players, or are we willing to let them go and then possibly see what we have? And then if we need to add depth, then we possibly do. But I think it's a big of a gamble because that gap between them is huge right now.
Yeah. It's, by the way, we've got blue tea on. It was a corker at Ewood Park, but it wasn't that good. It wasn't Roberto Carlos-esque. I was at that game that night as well. Big fan of Sean Garcia from Espanyol. Apparently he's been learning English. Don't know how true that is. Kenny Charles, good news. Diaz, Gvardiol, Kushnov, Ake, Kanji, centre back is good now. I think that's more than enough. And maybe one more, potentially, if you wanted to. I don't know. I think for Rage, yes, but not for Kushnov. By the way, there's another rule we've got to keep an eye on. You're only allowed to loan out 6 players. So keep an eye on loan.
Who would our loan pieces be? Obviously Calvin. If we can't sign him, if we can't offload him to Leeds.
Grealish.
Yeah, that's what Elliot was saying, Pierre. That's what he's saying, Pierre 28. He's saying, why can't you spend more on fullbacks and get better quality? I'm presuming you mean like a Theo Hernandez there, Elliot, or someone in that ilk.
Yeah, you could even get even more fullbacks, couldn't you? You could send an extra fullback, I suppose, with the money.
Yeah, I said before, it was like the Harry Kane situation. We decided to put those funds to something else.
Little stuff, you all. Ed, now be quiet. What was the average pay on a player in the last 10 years, Pat?
It's somewhere around the region of 25 to 30 million.
Well done, Pat.
Well done.
Yeah, he's watched the show, hasn't he?
No, I'm just good with numbers.
It's 25 mil.
Yeah.
Our average spend on a player is 25 mil.
But Martin, what was just discussed?
Yeah, 6 or over 21. Yeah.
But would you guys, if we are really interested in this Wesley, would you be okay with maybe letting a Nunes go and bringing in a more proven right back and let Wesley get in?
I don't know. I think you definitely need to bring someone in, Ed, because otherwise, if you just leave sort of Nico O'Reilly and Nunes to their own devices, then if they're going to continue getting just all the game time, then basically there is a possibility of complacency creeping in and things like that. And you're lacking that sort of competitiveness that we've had with our squad depth for many, many years. And that now, I think if you're going to get a proper recognised, wing back in or fullback or something like that, then that's good competition because you've got the established position player going up against the sort of inverted midfield who's playing in that role, and they can compete with each other to basically go for those positions. So it's healthy competition. We've seen it before, and obviously it brings the best out of the players, whether they're starting, whether they come off the bench, or whether they rotate or anything like that. But it's healthy competition. And we've seen it before. We see it with other clubs too. Like we look at the biggest. I think the biggest thing that Arsenal suffer from is they don't have healthy competition for Bukayo Saka. And I think if they had a good piece in there that could be competitive against him, then I think you'd see even better performances from Saka.
Yeah, the only reason why I asked that because if Wesley is the guy, and I'm just saying Wesley because that's advanced and everything like that. He's 21 years of age. He's never played in the Prem before. Would you guys be okay with Nunes being that backup option if Wesley has a bad few games?
I think so because he's already got the experience there.
That's why
it depends, mate.
Yeah.
Depends what Nunes wants, mate.
You need a utility player in some aspects, and I think Nunes falls into that category.
True, Nunes.
You need someone who's utilitarian, versatile. And
I'm
like
now
that.
starting to understand why people are saying if you're going to sell, he's an Akanji type. Because if Akanji's going to be a backup fullback, I'd rather keep Nunes at the minute.
But Nunes might want to not play fullback anymore. You never know.
No. I agree that's the thing. Players do get a choice in this. Like,
exactly what I'm saying.
I might turn around to Pep and go, don't want to play fullback anymore with due respect, mate. I want to go back to midfield. I think that's one of the biggest problems we had with Phil Foden is I think Phil Foden has always wanted to try and get into midfield. The trouble is with a Pep Guardiola, I don't think anyone has a set position. We said it earlier. KDB, everyone goes KDB.
only on paper. Only on paper they have a set position.
On paper they are. That's it.
That's it.
And we've got to stop. To be honest with you, we had a really good chat coming home in the car because, by the way, Manchester City, I know it's not your fault, but there was Kylie Minogue at the AO Arena. Bruce Springsteen was at the Co-op. It took 2 hours to get out the car park last night. Come on.
Go on, Kylie.
There was even a crash in the car park. It was dire, but I know it's not City's fault. That was bad timing.
Don't you dare blame it on Kylie. I know what you're like towards Australians.
But we're having a discussion. We were like, everyone's getting fixated on numbers. They are. And Pep Guardiola, the last thing he looks at is a number.
We've never been like that. How often do rival fans go at Bernardo because of his numbers?
Anyway,
you go watch him every week.
I need to go and start work, and you need to go and get some sleep, Pat. You've got a show in tomorrow.
Yeah, 1:15. Yeah, I'll see you sooner or later, I guess.
Final thoughts, gentlemen. A massive big up to everyone who's joined. This is going to take you straight to the South Stand as well. So you will continue your city loving. Anything you want to add? Elliot, Dash, Ed, more than welcome back on tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot of work to be done. We've got to focus on Sunday, Saturday against Fulham because the job ain't done yet. You know what I mean? It's tough over there. I know we've got undefeated record for a very good record over there, but listen, this team can go A to Z in seconds. So get the job done on Sunday or Saturday, whichever day it is. After that, hopefully getting a mini break. And let the chances begin.
Just quick one through. Does anybody think that the Forest-Chelsea game sort of not only helps us, but I mean, it just sort of, I think it takes the pressure off a little bit?
In some sense.
Because one of them's going to drop. One of them's going to drop, and that's the thing. Or if not, there's even a possibility both of them drop, to be honest.
I'm more concerned about Chelsea than Forest, though, just because of the points and how things can work out. But I'm more, if we take care of business, I just want us to take care of business.
Yeah. Well, we just need a draw. To be honest, we just need a draw. So I don't want that. I don't want them to play for that. But if it was a bad day, at least you know that's the sort of minimum we can set ourselves to.
Yes and no is the answer, Pat, because I get what you're saying. But on the other hand, does Fulham need to sort of go all-out attack like Bournemouth did?
Well, what's their manager's name again? So he does that
Silva.
anyway.
Marcus
Silva. That's it. Yeah. He does that anyway. So he'll have a go. And although I think Martin, you said they're on the beach because of Palace with the cup final, they're pretty much their European chances are done. Yeah,
they can't do anything now.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
The only thing they're doing now is playing for pride and trying to get a good result at home to their fans.
Yeah, whereas Bournemouth last night, Pat, or obviously this morning for you, that's why I think that suited us because they needed to actual win.
Yes.
So I think we have been pretty decent against teams who have come on to us so much. It's the low blocks what we've struggled against.
Yeah.
So maybe take Echeverri and Oscar Bob and these kind of plays on Sundays to try and break down the low block. It'll be interesting.
It's the sort of game I'd like to see. It's the sort of game I'd like to see Oscar Bob start. Actually, this would be a good game where you could even see Rico and Oscar Bob link up on the right hand side.
Rodri?
Nico G for me.
Yeah, Nico G and Gundogan. I think I could see Rodri come off half an hour in the second half. But Nico G and Gundogan, I think Nico's performance off the bench, yesterday against
very good.
It was very good, very good. I think he's
the shot was great.
It was so smart, shepherding the defender and then curling the ball around him. It's fantastic play.
Maybe
and I think it was really smart as well too because the more and more Mamouche was moving away from him, but then he just sort of as I said, shepherded the defender and just tucked the ball around Kepa. It was a really, really well made goal.
Yeah, maybe
I know Martin. I just want to say, it was great to see KDB get that send off. Great to get the win in his send off. And you just wish him the best. I'm glad that win it does put some weight off our shoulders going into this last game where we can look towards the future. And I know a lot of people have been bogged down by this season, but at least it's the light at the end of the tunnel, right? We're almost done with this season. We still have work to do, but we'll be in Champions League. And now we can look towards a bright future that we have. We have some in-house clearing up to do, decisions that we have to make. And hopefully that can be sorted out quickly. But Martin, I won't be able to come on tomorrow because I'm picking up my wife from the airport. She's been gone for a while for work. So I'm going to have some downtime.
Always, mate. Family always.
Ed, are you going to any Club World Cup games?
Yes, I will be in Orlando for Juve. I will be there.
It'll be in that concrete bowl that they call the Camping World Arena.
I'm going back to the same bar last time. I'm going back there.
I'm just looking at my schedule for work or my potential schedule. I am an outside possibility of going to Philly.
Okay.
Outside chance.
Mass thank you to everyone. Last couple of shout outs. Daniel with the 23 months. Big up yourself, mate. Thank you so much. Approaching that 2 years, you sir are a legend. And Vish again with the $2.99. Thank you so much for your continued support. Cheers, Martin, and the panel really enjoyed it. No, we really enjoyed that, and that's what we want to do. Really good, analytical, sensible chats.
Only the finest waffle here at the Mancunian.
I love doing them. I get turned off by all these emotional breakdowns. It's not me. I'm too calm for that stuff.
Martin, you see Tariq in the chat?
Yeah. By the way, we're gonna get Tariq onto this. Don't you worry. Tariq will be making his debut shortly. Top guy. Go and give the boys a lot of love. All the channel descriptions are down below with Tariq and Chunk. Yo, man, if you go to the Fulham match, let's connect to person. I won't be there because my dad's not well, which is where I'm going in a minute. My brother's going. But I will catch you next time you're over, Tariq. I promise you.
Tariq, I think Daps is trying to go. I think Daps is
trying to go. Yeah, get over to this city as well. Somebody else, all the descriptions are down there. go and show them a lot of love. This will take you straight to the South Stand with apps and with True City, Patrick. Just put Callum Mankway Raid. Mankway, not Wankway. Someone called it once. Mankway Raid.
That's called a spoonerism, by the way, ladies and
See
gentlemen.
you all soon. Take care. And as always, up the Blues. We'll see you all tomorrow for Thursday night chat.